evening. Tonight is Monday, December 4th, 2023, and this is the monthly school board meeting for December. Wow, a lot of echo on that one. With that, I'm calling to order and would ask Ms. Hastings to please take attendance.
Mr. Richards.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
Ms. Higgins.
Here.
Mr. Weinberg will be tardy. Mr. Cotton.
Here.
Ms. Robinson.
Here.
Ms. Meeker.
Here.
Mr. Curto.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Hastings. With that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the introduction of Terry Wolf, Superintendent. Do you want to take this?
Thank you, Jim. Please, tonight, as you know, it was a position that you had in your budget for several years, and this year we were able to conduct some interviews, and tonight I bring Terry Wolf forward tonight to meet with you, and I'll give you a little bit of background about Terry. She'll share a little bit about her work. Just a reminder that this position is a shared position with the Career and Technical Center. They had a need up at the center to do a lot of marketing, given that they have 9 sending schools. They also have this year, they are, with the new legislation, are required to do new contracts with all sending schools. So that's 9 new contracts, which involves marketing and being out in the school districts with families and students, marketing our programs. As you know, we have about, I think the latest numbers are around 730 youngsters who attend our Career and Technical, so it's a very popular program. We want to keep it that way, and we think that having a communication person with us will really help up at the center, and certainly help one of your goals, which has always been to improve, enhance communication. So I'm thrilled that Terry's joined us. Terry came to us from another school district, so she has some history and some experience in this role. She has an interesting background. She was a former school board member, so she knows the process and the work that you do. She's also served as a member, a legislator in Concord, representing her community, so she has a good understanding of the process over at the Legislative Office Building. So I'd just like Terry to share a little bit about herself, and please feel free to ask her any questions.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. And I'm aware that there are some much better speakers waiting to come ahead. So I think Superintendent Murphy kind of covered it. Before all of that experience, I worked for an organization that worked for corporations, nonprofits, small businesses, big businesses. We did all sorts of marketing, communication, product launches, conventions, you name it. So I have a lot of different experience, and I think one of the things that I bring is the ability to look at something from different audiences, different perspectives. And so I've had a great experience so far on day 6, and spent some time at the Career and Technical Education Center already. Have toured most of the buildings, and just plan on keeping, doing that and do a little assessment and then figure out what the priorities should be.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. Does anyone have any questions? Or
Welcome.
welcome?
Thank you.
Welcome.
I feel like there's plenty to do, so.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah. We're thrilled you're here.
Thanks. Yeah.
Very good.
Just to give you an idea, I mean, she's already working with Career and Technical Center, Ms. Fowler, on a strategic plan for the Career and Technical Center. There's also another document that we wanted to work on, and that's a communication plan for the district. So Terry's going to jump in and work on those projects, which are goals for us to do. So I'm excited to have her.
Very good.
I bet you are.
Okay. Well, thank you. If there's no other questions, then let's move on to approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any additions, modifications, things to remove?
I will move that we remove the minutes of the special board meeting on November 20th from the consent agenda for purposes of a correction.
Second.
The removal of the special board meeting November 20th, and that would move it to its own individual item which I guess I would call 4.5 at this
4.9
point,
sounds great.
if that's all right. And the motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion is passed. Are there any other changes or additions to the consent agenda? Or to actually, I'm sorry, the overall agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Motion has been made to approve and seconded by Mr. Cotton. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The agenda is approved. With that, we will move to the item 4, the consent agenda, which now consists of the regular monthly meeting of November 6th, the capital facilities meeting of November 1st, and the special board work session of November 27th. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Robinson, seconded by Mr. Croto. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The consent agenda is approved. We will now move to item 4.5, which is the minutes of the special board meeting of November 20th.
That is on page 17.
On page 17.
The change would be to, we have Mr. Weinberg marked as absent, and he was late on that day. He did arrive later in the evening.
So you would move to change that from absent to arriving
Yes.
later.
Tardy, yep.
Late.
Second.
Okay. The motion, the motion has been made to make that change and been seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of that change and approval of the minutes as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Those minutes are accepted as amended. With that, we move on to the part that everybody has been waiting for, and that is our celebration with, I believe, Broken Ground School this evening.
Best part of the meeting, we have our students from Broken Ground, and Mrs. Losey is here, so I think she'll get us started. And as you can see, we have a few of our students right in the audience, so we're all looking forward to it. I know some of them told me they were a little nervous, but I have a feeling they'll get over that.
So maybe the 6 students who are coming, can you hear me on this? No.
That's for the TV, not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be heard on streaming.
So I'll speak loud. With the 6 students who are going to be speaking, come on up. We thank you for having us today. We wanted to remind you that we are representing Broken Ground, the oldest elementary school currently serving students.
These are my people, I'm sorry. I'm going to be their hype section.
We wanted to share a little bit about our school-wide theme this year and also talk about one of our improvement plan parts that we've been working on. But first, let me introduce the folks who are up here. This is Amanya Arif, Matilda Thorpe, Ethan Berry, Violet Crumrine, Connor Curley, and Harrison Fogg is with us tonight. So our school-wide theme, I'm sorry folks, I wasn't paying attention. Our school-wide theme this year is
Dream big, work hard, and make it happen.
That's what we've been working on all year. We've been setting some goals, and we've been really trying to work on our vocabulary knowledge. You know, you get to look at all of the data about our schools, and we realized that vocabulary was something that we needed to work on. We know that vocabulary can be really tough. If you don't have the vocabulary, it's hard for you to read. And also, one of the best ways to improve your vocabulary is through reading. So we've been going at it from both ends. So tonight, I'm going to turn it over to Amanya.
So our school has made improving vocabulary knowledge a school-wide goal. We've been having a lot of fun with this. Every Monday, Miss Dodson, a reading specialist, introduces a new word of the week on the morning announcements.
We have studied words like eerie, which means weird or creepy, stagnant, which means stale or motionless, and blaring, which is super loud or booming.
We learn about the definition of the word and how to use the word in a sentence. We have a large word bulletin board with all of the words hanging up in the cafeteria and posters hanging in the weekly word in the hallways, classrooms, and even the bathrooms.
Good place to read.
Amen.
When you're on the toilet.
We see the word of the week in all sorts of places in the building. Like Mr. Zaris might use the word on his PE daily inspirational message, and Miss McCormick made a Kahoot game for us to play with the new words.
We are also working hard on vocabulary. That goes with different subjects like math, using words like multiples. When we talk about counting by threes or using the word quotient for our answers and solving real world number stories.
One of our teachers, Mrs. Kenny, has written a lot of songs for students to sing to learn new words and synonyms to expand their language skills. Tonight we have some students here who want to share one of the songs.
So I'm going to invite all the students that are here with Ms. Penny to come up. First, they're going to pass out some of the words to their song to you folks so that you can see what they're going to be saying.
Thank you.
Come on up, Logan.
Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow
There you go. There you go.
All right, I love this.
I am happy, cheerful, merry, full of joy. I'm contented, jubilant, delighted, glad. I am perky, crystal bright, twinkle pink and satisfied. I'm elated, overjoyed, and gratified. Recess!
Our next song is Hungry. 1, 2, ready, go.
I am hungry. I am starving. I'm ravenous. I'm famished. I need to eat my lunch.
All of these words that they can use in different ways. It's so great. We're glad that they came today. Perfect. So, but before we leave, we have one more thing we'd like to share with you. It's a topic about our 50 years of teaching and learning. And if you'll get a chance to look at the video in a few minutes. But we are very excited about this year. So, Manya?
In 1973, a study was conducted to plan for a new intermediate school for the students who lived on the Heights and East Concord areas of the city. It was designed for students in grade 4, 5, and 6 from these two areas and would allow Eastman and Dane to continue as the primary schools for these neighborhoods.
The new school was designed as an open concept school with 12 learning areas that would be in clusters of 4 and would allow team teaching as well as large and small group instruction. The entire academic learning complex would surround the Library Resource Center, which would be a focal point for academic teaching.
The arts had specially designed rooms for visual arts with sinks and areas for 2- and 3-dimensional art projects. The music room would have 2 soundproof areas for instrumental lessons, as well as general music classes. The PE program would have a full-size gymnasium that would be divided into 2 teaching areas. The cafeteria was designed to operate not only as a cafeteria, but also as an assembly area. Both the gym and the cafeteria were intended to be used as community resources beyond the school day.
The overall design of the school was chosen to allow 3 schools in one. A traditional school, a continuous progress school and activity center school. Families were able to select the type of learning model they thought best for their children. When BGS was constructed, it was described as the pride of the district and became a model for other communities in the 1970s.
The name Broken Ground came from the Abenaki Indians who had used this land as a camping area. It was supposed to open in the fall of 1974, but it was not ready when school opened following Labor Day. Teachers worked these days to prepare for the first days of school, and it finally opened 2 weeks later on September 16, 1974.
One other amazing fact we learned is that in 50 years there has only been 3 principals. Mr. Bob Ross opened the school, then Mr. Houston Davis served for another 26 years as principal until Mrs. Losey came to BGS in 2003. We wanted to share a few pictures from that first year. You may see a familiar face or two in the photos.
I remember this. That's how old I am.
You are the apple of my eye. Forever you stay in my heart. I feel like this is the beginning. Though I've loved you for a million years. In that one part of the world.
That'd be you.
The sunshine of my life. That's why I'll always stay around. Yeah, yeah. You are the apple of my eye. Forever you stay in my heart. You must have known that I was lonely. Cause you came to my rescue. And I know that this must be love. I got so much love. We don't have kids. You are the sunshine of my life. Yeah.
Oh, that was so good.
I think it's always good for students to learn about the history of the city that they've lived in and the schools they're in, so it's certainly an important part of learning, for sure.
We hoped you enjoyed learning a little bit of the history of Broken Ground School. Even though it's 50 years old and in its golden year, we are still very proud of our school. We love our teachers and the staff and love being able to share our ideas of ways to improve our school and keep it special.
Last year, students wrote persuasive letters to Miss Losey about adding bulletin boards in several areas and asking for a water filling station for the 3rd grade wing and even having a spirit costume day on Halloween. All of these ideas were accepted, which made us all very happy that as students, we can make a difference in our school. Our student council always takes on a project, and last year, with the help of the PTA, we added a goggle ball pit to our playground.
We are planning a celebration activities for the spring, like burying a time capsule and hosting a big barbecue for students, their families, alumni, and previous staff. Finally, we want to share a small token celebrating our 50th year with the school board tonight so you can pass the word in the city.
So if you could raise your hand if you're school board people, and these guys are going to hand hand out this.
All right.
You can start right over on that side. They're coming down. Just scoot it over this side. Come on, yeah.
Thanks, babe. This is so fun.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
I'm always asking for one when I'm here.
Yeah,
That's
my
nice.
school board's on that.
Very cool.
Folks, you guys on this, you guys are student ones, you should get one.
You're board members too? Yes, you are. Let's start writing with that one.
Put your hand up.
Me, thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for
I think everyone else got one.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Great job, you guys.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for coming and for sharing so much with us. At this point, we'll take a 5-minute recess just in case any of the students and their family wanted to leave and get ready to go to school tomorrow.
Good call.
Instead of listening to the rest of our meeting?
Instead of listening, they're welcome to, but I certainly understand. I did too. I had to borrow one from Barb. Thank you, Barb, but now I have my own.
I have Stevie Wonder stuck in my head for the rest of the night.
There could be worse things.
I know. I was very pleased with the
Yeah, that
music
was good.
choice.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, did that make you feel nostalgic?
I've seen that picture once before, long time ago, maybe after. Yeah, Broken Ground holds a lot in my heart out there.
Thank you to the students from Broken Ground who did that outstanding presentation for us. We'll now move on to item number 6, recognitions and reports. Superintendent, are you going to take item A?
I'm going to pass item A to Jack Dunn, who worked with this group of folks, so Jack can describe.
Mr. Dunn?
Come on up, Mr. Hall. I want to introduce Mr. Doug Hall, from the Wonolancet Club. He'll say a few words, and then we'll will talk about their generous donation as a club.
Welcome, Mr. Hall.
Thank you for having me. I'll be very brief. The Wonolancet Club is a very old men's club. Women weren't allowed to be admitted throughout its history. It was incorporated here in Concord in 1891. It had a maximum of 500 members set, and almost everybody that was in the elite of Concord through the Second World War was a member of the club. And we're down to 9 members now. Beginning in 1996, we began to provide small scholarships to Concord High School students on graduation. And as we have decided that sometime in the next couple of years, the club will go out of existence. We're all in our 80s, the members. And so we're taking our assets and creating a scholarship fund for Concord High School students that will be at the Charitable Foundation in perpetuity. We today put the first $80,000 into that fund so that with the Charitable Foundation's usual rules, 4% of that would be available this coming January for the staff at Concord High School to decide to whom to award one or more scholarships. And we will probably be putting another $30,000 in to that fund, which will increase how much will be available every year. The only thing I'd point out about the scholarship fund, which may be somewhat unique, is that we have in the agreement stipulated that it should be available not just for students who will be attending college, but any who might be going to trade school, or finding some way to get licensing in a trade after graduation. And so the staff at the high school will have the responsibility of selecting those one or more students. Criteria for the scholarships will be financial need. That would be first. Second would be excellent academic record. And third would be having overcome some special difficulty in their life. So it turns out right now with our 9 members, only 1 lives in Concord. The members are all over the place, but we have a fiduciary responsibility to see that the assets that were developed by the club over the years are used for something similar to what the club was designed for when it was initially incorporated. So we hope that will help some students, starting those that will graduate this year, this coming spring. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hall, and all of the members of the Wonolancet Club for your incredibly generous gift.
I'm leaving now because Monday night is our poker night. They're already over there playing cards.
All right. Well, I wish you much luck.
Thank you.
Win some more scholarship funds.
Right.
Mr.
So I ask you to
Dunn?
recognize that because under your gift policy of gifts over $5,000, and we wanted to recognize for this very generous donation.
Absolutely.
That's why we brought that to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Outstanding. Do we need to do anything?
Do a vote to accept them.
We have to just accept it. We don't have to do anything additional to that, right? So if I had a motion from some.
Move to accept the Wonolancet's generous gift.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cotton, seconded by Mr. Weinberg. Thank you both. Is there any discussion other than to continue to express our gratitude?
I think Mr. Hall is very modest in not sharing his illustrious background with addressing education funding across our state. So I also want to thank him for that work over the past decades.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Any other? With that, all those in favor of accepting this gift, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. We formally accept the most generous gift. So, thank you, Mr. Dunn.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Jim, on your behalf, I will send a letter to the club. I know he said the members are spread all over the place, but I'll send a letter to Mr. Hall in appreciation for that donation.
Thank you very
On behalf of the
much.
board.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Anything else with that, Mr. Dunn?
No.
Okay. With that, we move on to item B, the student report. Van, Sophia.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. At CHS, most people, I feel like, are looking forward to our holiday break coming up in just 3 weeks. And everyone enjoyed our 2-hour delay we had this morning. With just 3 weeks of school this month, there's not much going on, and but there's still some stuff. Winter sports have all started now, and we have our first games and meets coming up. I think most sports have them either this week or next week. And at school last week, we had our first lockdown drill to practice, like what we would do in the case of a situation where we need to go in lockdown. And although it's like not something that like everyone would wish we had to do, it's something that we do to make sure everyone's safe. And on another note, coming up Tuesday next week, December 12th, the Capitol Center for the Arts is hosting the CHS Winter Concert. And thank you, and look forward to seeing everybody after winter break.
Hello everyone, and happy December. A few weeks ago, Superintendent Murphy, David Gill of Parks and Recreation, and Steve Mello, Athletic Director of CHS, put together student discussion groups about future plans for the Memorial Field. They were held at both Runlet Middle School and Concord High School. They received a short backstory on Memorial Field and then a discussion on what students want to see. We wanted to share student input about their wishes for Memorial Field with the board. So these are just a summary of the main points of what students. I was present for one of the meetings, so I know this is all very accurate. So first, bleachers. The bleachers at Memorial Field, I think all students talked about the football field, the softball field, and the opposing side for the football field as well. People noticed something like rust. The football field bleachers are wooden, and we really just think we need an updated area for not even just our fans, but even teams coming to watch our games. I've noticed that opposing teams usually don't have a lot of fans because the bleachers over there are not adequate to sit on. They also talked about drainage, which I'm sure most of you have heard about. Drainage, I think in the presentation that Mr. Gill gave, the drainage system hasn't been repaired since the 70s, I believe it was, and even then it's not working correctly now, as we know. I think the idea was to have a turf field inputted, or we would like a turf field. There was some concerns about health issues because turf fields, if not done correctly, if not used correctly, they can cause pretty severe injuries, including ACL tears, Achilles tears, just because of the difference of the surface between real grass and turf. So I think the idea was students wanted both a turf field and grass fields to play on, because all the other schools in the state, they have turf fields and they have that competitive advantage against us, and we really think that we need a turf field just to get out earlier, especially with the winter months. Field hockey also would be able to use this turf field. They currently play at Rollins Field, or Rollins Park, which they don't even get to use the facilities that all the other sports use, which we don't think is very fair. We're also thinking to develop pathways around the field. I know cross country uses lots of complex laps to get their mileage in. There's also a need for more parking, which we all know parking has always been an issue. And most importantly, we don't want to forget about the arts. Band and many other of the arts, and Concord is very big on arts. We don't want to forget about them. They use the field very much. There was also an idea at the middle school. They wanted to create an amphitheater to make sure we include the arts. And they also want to be able to be prepared to include new sports like pickleball. That's becoming increasingly popular. Sorry, there's a lot here. I think the high school also was concerned about accessibility for people, especially because there's a giant hill that kind of slopes down and there's only really one entrance in it. It makes it very difficult for grandparents or people that are not easily accessible to the field to come watch games for their kids. And they were also talking about JV softball needs fencing, outdoor basketball courts may need some renovation, locker rooms and updated bathroom facilities. Lines need to be repainted on the field, and there's a lot more, but I feel like that's more the main points, of course. Not just athletes were a part of these focus groups, but also Concord students. This is citizen money because we're going half and half with the school board and the people of Concord. So we hope that that they were all encouraged to attend the public hearing for Memorial Field, which we'll hope will be a time that won't interfere with too many sports practice, which I know is difficult. But other than that, that was kind of the main point of our message this evening. So thank you, and I hope you have a great December.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Sophia.
it.
Thank you for an excellent summary, very comprehensive.
Sorry.
I have a question. Is this will be shared? This was with the city, so they were also shared in this as well?
Yes, there was David Gill. He is part of Parks and Rec, so he was there for representation of the city. And then on our part, there was Superintendent Murphy and the athletic director at Concord High.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Go ahead.
Question. Was it open to all students, and these are the students that came, or were specific students recruited?
There were specific students that were recruited. I believe Ms. Lamb sent out an email to a couple students. I think they were names that were given. But as I said, it was not just student athletes. It was people, citizens of Concord as well within the school.
Other questions? All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Have
Thank you.
have a great December yourselves. All right. Next item C is the superintendent's report. Superintendent Murphy.
Thank you. If I could, I'd like to take a moment to recognize a couple members of our staff. First person is Stephanie Bendez over at Runlet. She's an art teacher, and she received a letter from the folks at the Mount Washington Observatory, and she was selected to participate in what they call Arctic Wednesday program, and she was one of 12 teachers who was selected out of 88 applications. The teachers came from New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Maine. And so she will be taking the snowcat up the mountain in February and spending the day up there and learning all about the work that's done up at the Mount Washington Observatory. So I just wanted to let you know that she's pretty excited about it. And I have to tell you that I got the list of the folks that were recipients, and they were all math and science people, and then one art teacher.
Yeah.
So yay to Stephanie and for doing it, and she's super excited. So I wanted to share that with you. The second is a letter that I received from Salvatore Prizio over at the Capitol Center for the Arts. And so if I could take a minute to read that letter. I wanted to touch base and express my gratitude to Clint. I think you all know who that is, right? Clint Close. And his students following the third of 3 concerts held at the Concord Community Center this fall. Our goal as an arts organization is to provide artistic experiences to all members of the community. We realize that transportation is an obstacle, so for many, we wanted to meet the people where they're at and present quality performances to our new American and refugee populations on the Heights. Given this new program, cost was a consideration for us when assembling the program. Having Clint and his students efficiently, professionally, and effectively run all of the technical aspects of these performances allowed us to launch this program successfully. Each event was executed without issue, on time, and within budget. The students were able to experience and work firsthand with professional touring artists and the state-of-the-art equipment under the guidance and supervision of Clint. As someone who has been in the business for 25 years, I can say there is no more important experiences for students interested in the field than to have hands-on, real-world experiences these students are getting with events like this. Thanks to their efforts and the success of this pilot program, the city has agreed to grant us the funds needed to create a full season of programming for this community next season. My greatest hope that we can continue to partner with Clint and his students for this program in the future. I want to thank all of you for allowing this partnership to take place and look forward to working with all of them soon. So I thought you should hear that. He works so hard and he does so much, and oftentimes Clint is in the background at most events, if you notice, and always helping out whenever he's needed. So I really was happy that I could take a moment to recognize his efforts. So anyway.
Thank you.
And I was actually at those performances. Everything was amazing. The performances were incredible. Everyone did such a good job. The sound was
and the nice part is they're going to continue, and that's another, that's another plus for our community. I'd like to I'm going to go on to some business now. We've had enough celebrations. Not that we couldn't always have more. We could always have more. But I wanted to let you know about the school-based cavity prevention and treatment program going on in our schools, and just remind parents that they can sign their youngsters up for this program. It's an excellent program that provides a dental screening, toothbrush cleaning, toothbrush and toothpaste, and oral health education with the youngsters. Of course, the program, in order for the youngster to participate, we must have parent approval, but it's certainly something that's well worth the effort. If there's a problem and they see a problem, we have a dental hygienist who does all this work for us in our schools, and if they see an issue, they can continue to do some other work and get the treatments that a student might need to correct their issue. So it's a great program. We know that good dental health is a factor in overall student health. So we want to continue to support that. I want you to know that the program is sponsored by the Northeast Delta Dental, who have always been big players in our community in supporting schools and supporting our students. And we do have a New Hampshire licensed dental hygienist that runs the programs in the schools. So just a heads up, I can't say enough about the program and the participation.
Superintendent, I just want parents to know that there doesn't need to be a need base for students to participate in this program either. Both of my kiddos do it every single year. We have dental insurance and they go to the dentist on a regular basis, but we still utilize the program. It's just good reinforcement for good oral hygiene, and the kids really like it.
Yeah,
So
and
I
especially
recommend
since they get
everybody using it.
toothbrushes and toothpaste and other kinds of things to, to take home with them. So I just encourage everyone. I know that the principals have been sending out notices, and I think we have one coming up at Abbott Downing very soon. So just a plus. My last, before I turn it over to John, John and Kim and Quincy's somewhere here. I saw him. There he is. Before I turn it over to them, I just wanted to kind of update you on a tutoring program that I had talked to you earlier in the year. You know that we've been really focused on mathematics. That was an area in our state assessment, our SAS testing, as well as at the SATs at the high school. But we tried to focus on a particular group of youngsters, grades 4, 5, and 6. And those youngsters, especially the fourth and fifth graders, really remember they were at home during the pandemic, not getting all that direct instruction. And as a result, we saw that there were deficits in their learning. We specifically saw deficits in things like subtraction. You would think, they're doing multiplication and division, but they're struggling with subtraction. Subtraction's taught in second grade, first and second grade. It wasn't a good pattern of instruction. We also know that they needed some work in geometry and also data. So, we've had trouble finding tutors and hiring tutors. We've been working on that all year in our buildings. We have reading tutors and math tutors, but we couldn't secure enough to give additional help. These are students, many of them, who don't have any interventions. They don't have an individual plan, or they're not in a Title I math program. These are youngsters that just need that extra boost in particular areas. So we've reached out to a company called Club Z. Thanks, Kim. Club Z, and we are working on a contract with them to bring tutors into our elementary schools, grades 4, 5, and 6, actually including the middle school, and we'll focus on students that we looked at their data. We assessed where they would need the additional tutoring. We would like to make sure that it's not during their regular math instruction, so we're not pulling them out of their math class. We're doing it during their enrichment time or the time when they do remediation with students. And so we're going to, technically, they get a double dose of math. When it boils down to, they're getting more math. We'd like to see them get at least 3 half-hour sessions every week until they secure that skill, and then they can move back into the regular. But if we don't do that, they'll always have that deficit and that delta between what they need to know and how they'll be successful, especially as they get into higher levels of mathematics at the middle school and into high school. So we hope we'll start. We're trying to get it started at the end of this week or the beginning of next week, so we can get it started. We'll work out any of the kinks, and then full blast come when we return after the holiday recess. So I wanted to give you an update. I know that you've been wondering where that was. You're going to ask me where I'm getting the money from, aren't you?
No, I know where you're getting the money from.
I failed to mention that we are using our ESSA funds. I did fail to mention that.
And I appreciate you doing this, and I may have been a little obsessed and bugging you about this. How many students do we think we will?
Well, we've identified them in each of the schools. I don't have the numbers. Have you?
There's approximately 10 to 15 at the schools that we'll target.
That's it?
At each school?
At each grade level.
At each grade level?
At each grade level,
Okay.
3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Okay.
4, 5, 6. And it may be more or less. It does depend. I mean, you see, it's really when you look at this, and you've seen some of the test results, you see that there's some that are just flying and they're doing fine, and they're, so you'll see a group of kids that are on grade level moving forward, and then you'll see some other youngsters that are struggling. So we're going to look at the numbers. I can't give you absolute, but I'll come back with absolute numbers.
It'd
I
be
will.
great to,
Yep,
to
I
get
will.
reports about what kind of progress
And
we see.
because you really, they're not there forever. The goal is focus on the skill that they need, the extra tutoring, and so that they can go back into their regular math class.
Okay. Ms. Meeker.
I was curious about Club Z. It's a contracted service.
That's right.
And so, why did you choose them? And then also, is some of that data collection part of their services?
Right. Well, we'll meet with them, and they'll Chantel, our math coordinator, will be working with them to show them the data. We also they'll be using our materials because that makes sense, right? And then also one of the things that Chantel was really concerned about when we met was that we would make sure that the strategies that we use in the classrooms are repeated, so that helps the youngster. Sometimes that strategy may not work, so we're hoping that the tutor you may see on occasion where a tutor would try something different in order to gain the knowledge of that skill. There was another part to your question.
I was just curious what we
Why
know about
Club Z? Well, they are in local, but they have a national reputation. Families in Concord have used them. They do a lot of in-home tutoring. So if you're a family and you'd like to have extra tutoring for your child in math or reading or whatever, they will come right into your home. So not a lot of them, like other companies, you have to go to them. Well, we don't want to be busing kids to somebody's business. We wanted them to come into the school environment.
That's great.
So that was a plus for them, that they would do that with us.
That's great. Thank you.
So I have my fingers crossed, because we really, the youngsters are working hard, teachers are working hard, and I think this will give them the extra boost that they need.
Okay. Other question? Go ahead, Liz.
And just to clarify, for the public, this isn't on top of tutoring services we already offer to students who may have IEPs or Title I.
These are for these are youngsters that this is additional. This is youngsters who may not be getting IEP services or tutoring services, who are just in that, with a little bit of extra support, they will master their competency and be proficient in that skill. So we've identified those youngsters based on the test results, and so we'll look at that and provide that service for them.
Other questions? Thank you very much. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Croto.
So I hesitate in even asking this, but it's unfortunate it's necessary in this day and age. They do stringent background checks for all the tutoring.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that we have all the fingerprinting and all that done. I don't know if Club Z has their own. I suspect they do since they're going into homes, but they'll also follow our rules around fingerprinting and criminal record check.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Good
Cotto.
question.
Any other questions? Proceed, Superintendent.
Thank you. And so a couple of topics that you've been really interested in has been the work around the ELL study program that we did. Remember, we were doing a study on our English language program. And then we were also, you asked about the MAP program, the middle school alternative program. And so John and Quincy and Fern, and we have a whole group. I think they're going to join us. Fern is here. Jay.
Good evening, everyone.
So Quincy, you can sit through this one, but you're part of the second one too. So thank you and good evening, everyone. Tonight I'm pleased to talk about two topics that have been going on, and the nice thing about my position is I do nothing alone. I come with a lot of people and a lot of people to work with me and help promote the programs that we have in place. About a year ago, to give some background, we had a lot of conversations with the administration at the middle school, and they were having, I would say, difficulty with some students who really just weren't engaging in what they were trying to do, had difficulty with attendance, had difficulty with academics, had difficulty with a lot of factors that went into every day being a student at Runlet Middle School. And we wanted to help them. And we said, how do we help them? We need something different than the day looks now. And we started that conversation, created something, and we launched into our middle school alternative program this year. And today we're here to talk about kind of how's it going, what our numbers are, and kind of where we hope to continue to go with it. So I'll lead in, then I'll turn to Principal Richard and just talk a little bit about kind of his experience so far coming on, and he kind of dove right in when we got here.
Yeah, so I just want to say, actually, Fern and I went over to visit this past Friday. I've been over a couple times from the very beginning. One of them was a fun experience where I shared with the kids that they need to, my expectation is they're going to follow the same cell phone policy as they do at school. So that was fun to go over there and share with them, but the kids have been actually wonderful with that. You know, they need expectations. In places actually set up very, very well. The staff there have both done a great job organizing the space. It's clean, orderly, organized, and the bottom line is this, it's making a difference. We currently have 5 students over there. I have 2 students that actually come back to Runlet Middle School. They're transported over after they're ending it at 1 o'clock, and I'm closer with those kids because I get to see them most days. One of the challenges we'll get to is, you know, just the space, but I do want to be clear, it's clearly making a difference for the 5 students who are currently over there.
So what is our program? And I think we'll start off. It's a learning environment that provides both, the psychoeducational opportunities paired with the delivery of instructional program. It's pairing that real strong SEL component of putting the children in a very secure, well-rounded, trauma-informed atmosphere, along with providing some strong academic programming for them at the same time. It's tailored to the needs of the students. It's a partnership with Seacoast Youth Services, who does a lot of our clinical part of that, along with Second Start, who's been a partner for us for years here in Concord. And now we've just expanded some of the work they've done with us at the high school and brought it down to the middle school. Students who are there, every 30, 60, 90 days we review their program. We look at what they're doing. We reconsider about, can we increase, as Jay talked about, start bringing them back in the afternoon, start increasing their day, and start transitioning them back into the full program in the middle school. And we've started that with a couple kids. Family partnership. Our social worker, up until we lost social worker kind of beginning of this year, and now we have a new one starting, hopefully in a couple of weeks. And also with the work of our counselor over there, school counselor, we're doing a lot more family partnership and engagement and talking to the families often. And then system of care values, it's youth driven. It's giving them lot of an opportunity to be aware of who they are and what kind of learner they are, and how do they learn. And I think Jay was sharing to me, a couple of the students, I hope he'll talk about this, shared and talked about kind of what they really liked about being in a different environment, and kind of how that big environment was really hard for them and anxiety it caused for them. Mm-hmm. This allowed them to really step back and learn in a different way. What it's not, a special education program, it's not. Only, I believe, one child right now actually is on an IEP, one's in process. It's not an out-of-district placement. It's part of Wonolancet Middle School, just in a separate location. It's not a therapy session. It's provided universally through an SEL component, and it's not a long-term placement. This is meant to be a short-term to reintegrate kids into the program.
So I wanted to make sure people understood how the students come to be referred. So this is part of the tiered system of support that we offer. So Wonolancet has a really strong tiered system. And so when a student is beginning to show signs of struggling, whether it's attendance issues or anxiety, or families calling and saying, I don't know what to do, whether there's low engagement or distraction in the classroom, they may go through a tier 2 intervention, and then if that doesn't work and help the student, then the next step is a referral to this might be the right alternative option for that student. It really is a strong placement or a strong place for students who need those extra skills that they might learn of how to cope with strong emotions, the strong anxiety feelings that they might get when they're in school. Also, we've seen a lot of success with the kids who are having a very difficult time getting to school. So they may have had a really, really a lot of chronic absenteeism, and that seems to be resolving through this program, which is really great to get them back into that habit of waking up and participating in the family, to get out the door and to a school environment. It's really an interdisciplinary team that makes that decision, and it's with the family, of course, because it is a family-focused process as well. We want to make sure the family feels very comfortable in this. It's a very innovative program, really. This is I've already fielded a couple of calls from other districts saying, tell us about this, I heard about this. So it's a very common concern that people are having across the state, and this is a really innovative way to address it. I did they have a wonderful way of managing or organizing their day. And you can see on the left-hand side, that's just their schedule. But on the right-hand side, as I listened to the teacher and the counselor who's supervised and comes to us from Seacoast Youth Services, you really see that full scope of important SEL and enriched environment. And so you can see along the right-hand side these features. There's a strong sense of belonging. We heard that from one of the students who said, when I'm here, there's mutual respect. I respect my teachers and they respect me, and I can really just ask for help and they really understand me. That was like, I wanted to just record everything he said, because it was so powerful the way he was describing this as a entry back into school and feeling confident again in himself as a student. You could really tell they were starting to feel optimistic and hopeful about themselves. There's a lot of reflection. They do a lot with, so that is a evidence-based practice that they use during their group work, which is school-based DBT, dialectical behavioral treatment for students in a school setting, which is all very, very skill-based. So it's not therapy in terms of psychotherapy, it's really skills to help cope and manage themselves in all that they do. So we have a lot of hope also for providing some embedded therapies moving forward. We're hoping with our new grant that you'll be hearing about to look into music therapy and arts. This is one I wanted to share that's just the one of the examples of the reflection sheet. Again, not just, having the work, be given to them, but then afterward, how did I do with it? What was, did I use my active listening skills? Did I participate in the check-in? So again, student-centered, asking them to reflect on their own engagement. And this is, they do a great job, the teacher and the counselor, collecting data. So they shared with me all the data on every kid every day. They're collecting data to see their growth, and they've really seen a lot of growth in each student. Of course, I can't share all that information, but I wanted to share this, which is the what they're looking at, these 5 essential areas, 5, and the rubric that they use. And the kids know that this is what they're working on. And these, of course, are really essential SEL skills for being successful in school and life.
Thank you, Fern. So, kind of how the timeline works too is, we identified the problem. 23-24 program design and preparing. September 23 to present, we launched the program in the first 4 students and then added a 5th, and we have another one in the referral process now. So we're looking at a 6th one coming in and maybe one coming back to Runlet. So we already had one come back. We may have a second one coming back. So it's kind of a flow that happens. So this is kind of where with our timeline. I think that we had to develop our referral process, which took some time, about kind of what does everyone have to do when we have a concern about a student? How do we know we have good data? What data are we collecting in the school? And then Fern just showed an example of what data we're collecting as we transition back in, and then reintroducing, our group back into the flow. So again, first 3 months, we started with 4, returned 2 more, and as I talked about, the 60, 30-day, 90-day reviews are happening.
So, this is, is it me? I wanted to share, these were the kind of, when I talked to find out, like, where are we now? This was the real data, and they had graphs and all the data lined up to show the increase in engagement, the skills that they're learning through and academics. But it's wonderful to see there truly is progress in all these areas in that environment, and the hope is that in that environment they will sort of rekindle that understanding of themselves as students who can be productive and engaged in school and interested in learning, and sort of get that hope back about being engaged.
So, where's the funding coming from? And this is kind of part of it. So you see, we started with ESSER 2, and a small portion of ESSER 3 were used to begin the program before the new grant that we received, the Children's Mental Health Initiative grant that you'll see. Currently, 1-year contract with Second Start. It's about $90,000, a little over $90, almost $91,000. And then Seacoast Youth Services, about $78,000. And salary, supplies, transition, special ed programs, all those things are involved in it. Long term, we want to evaluate the cost per pupil and consider a figure in the context of student outcome. Would we consider, looking at this as a program that we expand more? Do we look at location? There's a lot of still considerations to look at. And that's kind of where we are. And what kind of savings are we, where's the savings in kids that may have gone to an out-of-district placement? Where are those savings in that cost benefit? And time will tell, and we'll talk about that in our future.
Okay, some of the challenges, but before I get to that, I want to share that the kids are very articulate in terms of one of the positives of the program is just a smaller class size, really, like a more individualized approach and more attention. The kids have been very articulate with me, saying, Mr. Richard, back at Runlet, where I was at the time, it was really hard for me to pay attention, and in a larger class size, a lot going on, some of the traffic in the hallway. So that's made a big difference for those kids over there. Some of the challenges, son up there, new principal. I came in over the summer, making sure we wanted to get this off the ground. John's been wonderful to work with, Fern as well as the Second Start staff. Transportation, we know transportation can be a challenge. Them being on a different school day, 9 to 1 o'clock, just making sure we provide transportation because they're getting picked up at their house. It's not a typical bus route. Give a lot of credit to Terry. He's been great to work with, and it's not easy. He's got a lot of demands on him, but we made it happen. Some of the basic stuff that you would hope that I wish in hindsight I've learned a lot from this process, like, making sure that the staff have access to Power School, the student data, the SAS data, those things. That's all useful information for the staff over there to kind of have. If I could go back again in time, I wish I had done some of those things and been a little bit more thoughtful providing that. Connection with Wonolancet staff, we're on this side of the town, they're over there, though I've only visited a couple times. We do a lot of our communication via email, but little things like today, when making sure when I woke up and we had a delayed opening, Fern and I kind of sometimes don't get to collaborate early in the morning, but like I texted him, hey, just as FYI, it's a delayed opening, and she did the same thing. But just making sure we're keeping the staff over there informed so they can pass that information on to the kids. Again, just distance, hiring at EA. The design of the program is to have the 2 staff and also have an educational assistant. So when one of them is out on a professional development day, we're providing staff to go over there to kind of, for lack of a better term, fill in and substitute. But as you know, across all our schools, substitutes aren't the easiest thing, but we make it work. Just simple processes, like the staff have been wonderful over there, but they have a lot of questions. Like, it'd be a lot easier if they were on site, like, field trip forms, or, if we need something for a kid, what do? We make it work, and of course, we're very accommodating, but, just little processes like that about what do we do about a field trip. And, it's not on this slide, but again, I think the social worker piece, we do have a social worker starting next Monday. My community is looking forward to that, but I think that's also been a missing piece from the start. I know that person will be a great asset and resource for the staff over there, so. Some just, again, future considerations, collaboration in terms of what are the learning goals. I mean, again, it needs to be different because the kids are there from 9 to 1, so the experience is going to look a little bit different. But looking at curriculum, staffing, we'll continue to work on that. New referrals, it's learning. I keep reminding the staff over there, this is brand new. We have a lot to learn. It's kind of learning and growing as we go, but making sure we're identifying the right types of students that we feel are going to be successful over there. Continued communication. I mean, the staff over there have my cell phone number. They know if there's ever a situation to call, at the very least call the front office, and we'll get right back in touch with them. And again, John and I have talked about this as well as Fern, just the location. I wish they were a little bit closer. I really do. But I must say, the site itself is very organized. It's a beautiful space. I just wish it was maybe 500 yards down the street instead of across the other side of town. So.
And just a couple pictures for you up there of, I'm sorry, Fern,
Yeah, no, this is the site. We wanted to make sure you could have a image in your mind of what it looks like there, and the great job they've done putting it together and creating a very welcoming, warm environment for the kids. One of the things that they have benefited from is there's a preschool in the building, so they've done some work down in the preschool and reading to the kids, eating lunch with them. That's been really wonderful for them. They were able to participate in the Thanksgiving celebrations over at Second Start with the high school kids. So it's been really nice for them to they are part of that community over there, which is wonderful. So they're not so isolated in that way.
And any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
I remember when we were first talking about this program, and I was just so excited. I'm so thrilled that it's finally working and we've got kiddos involved. I was really curious about how we feel this is impacting the culture at Runlet and how it's impacting the student body. Just wondering if you've been able to reflect on that. I know it's still very early days, but I'm not sure if you have any reflections on how this is improving the culture at Runlet at the same time.
I would say that it's as I said at the very beginning, I think it's making a very positive difference for the students who are over there in terms of the culture. That's something we're working on every single day. I actually met with the 8th grade and 7th grade recently. Tomorrow morning, I meet with the 6th grade. I meet by cluster and just talking about the culture and expectations that we have in the school community. I'll give you one quick example is like the responsibility of the school is our home away from home, like our home school, and that we all need to take responsibility for making sure the building's clean. An example would be like picking up trash in the hallways or in the bathroom. Our boys are famous for wanting to take basketball shots into the trash barrels, but when they miss, they don't pick it up. So it's just those little things that we're working on in terms of, you know, the school culture, and I think it's making a difference. I mean, just talking with the kids last week, I see kids picking up stuff in the hallway that's not theirs now. Not everybody, but it's just going to take time. So I think they're two separate things about working on the school environment in general at Runlet and expectations. But I want to be clear, it's making a positive difference for the kids that are over there.
Which is the most important.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I know we've only had one student transition back at this point, but what kind of planning are you doing to help integrate students back from going from that very personalized small experience to a bigger environment, back to a bigger environment?
I know that is a very important consideration, and we've talked a lot about making sure that we systematically incorporate a transition plan for every student when they return. So, like, the idea was with that extra time in the afternoon was to slowly integrate more and more time and to make sure that they develop connections and with the teachers that they would have, be able to walk around and see where they're going to go and sort of reacclimate, especially for those who are, you know, may have had some negative feelings about Runlet from the past. So it's really about a lot of work reframing and giving them access to more opportunities. We've talked a little bit about seeing if we could create some kind of way to get more access to their, we call them, there's not specials here, the exploratories or unified arts. So we've talked about different things, but that is a really critical piece of this because otherwise it's not going to work. And we've also talked about the need to have transition always already be happening, that it's always a conversation embedded in the process that of the day that they're going through, that they're thinking about who are my teachers there, what's happening. They're always connecting. For instance, when there was the book fair, they got the bus and went over to the book fair. When there's a field trip that the school is taking, they have the option of going on that field trip. The dances.
Picture day.
Picture day. These are big deals, and they do a lot of reflection, a lot of processing to think, okay, we're about to go there. What are the feelings that you're having? How is that going to go? What might you expect? What do you hope happens? How did it go? And reflection. So it's really about reestablishing those connections and making sure that that's happening. I'm not sure that in the circumstance of the one student, it's that's one that we'll measure it by, but those are the plans for moving forward.
Go ahead, Ms. Hastings.
I'm wondering just, do the grants cover the entire cost of the program for this year?
So far, yes.
That's great. And do
Yeah,
you
for this
think
year.
that they'll cover them for the coming year, or is there planning for that?
We have it in there for next year as part.
Yeah.
3
years?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got this for 3 years before we have
Yeah.
to really start thinking about.
Yeah. I'm going a year at a time, so I didn't say 3 years to my little
Absolutely.
partner
Yeah,
in the
no,
back
that's
there,
great.
because year by year, and I think that this year and next year, we're going to evaluate this year as it goes, see where we are. Again, this was never meant to be a year-long program for kids for 177 school days. It was meant to be a 30, 60, 90-day program. After 90 days, which we're getting close to that mark for some of these kids, we have to consider what more needs do they possibly have.
Right.
And is this intervention they need? Maybe we'll continue. But we have to strongly evaluate that because it wasn't meant to be an out-of-district placement or a separate placement. And it's not. It's still part of Runlet Middle School. And we have to consider that in our future, talk about that.
It's new, and it's not one size fits all. right? So every kid is an individual, and I will say that all the kids that are there currently and, you know, any student that's returned, it's had a positive impact on them and things are better.
That's great. Thank you.
So following on that question with just the 3 years, is this, I know it's early in the program, but is this something that future boards should look at incorporating in the design of our future middle school, that there would be a space that is out
Yes.
of the way and all, and is that a message you're trying, so that in 2028 or 2030, when we have a new middle school, you know, is this a wing or something that we need to keep in the back of our mind as we go through the detailed process of designing it?
So I think based on our data, and again, everything's gonna be based on data. What's our data showing us? Where have kids been successful? We chart every day, as you saw, what the skills our kids should be gaining. Are they gaining them in their program? Are they moving forward? Is it effective? If so, the answer is yes. If no, maybe we have to look at something different. So this was a collective creative thought that we put forward and piloted this year to get off the ground with some struggles, but it's moving forward and kids are showing some success. The future's still just not there yet, and that's how I answer that. Let the data drive us as we move through the year and into future thoughts like that. Like, do we need something alternatively at the high school? Alternatively at the new middle school, a wing or something like that that's separated? Maybe, but maybe not yet. I guess it's premature to answer that for me.
Thank you very much. Mr. Weinberg?
Thank you so much, first off, for all of this. Do we have, and I know I've asked this before, do we have a sense of how many students would be eligible for a program like this?
So capacity is 10, based on the staffing needs that we have with the 2 staff in the ed assistant. Right now, we've had a little struggle hiring that ed assistant, and we may have to again rethink: is that the right position for this? If we're having that much trouble hiring, is it something that we have to reconsider a different type of position maybe moving forward? If we're almost at mid-year and haven't hired it yet, and it's been advertised, and we reposted actually this morning, correct, Fern? Is that what the conversation was this morning, to repost it? So it's just going to be one of those things that it's evolving, and I think that the question is going to be, are we staffing it right? Can we increase the need? The need right now is, I would say, that I use the term trickle. It's trickling. We're getting a referral probably every couple months. Would you say that right about now?
And we're learning as we go, too. Again, it's just making sure we kind of identifying the right type of student to be there. So we're very thoughtful about the referral process right now.
Mr. Croto.
Thank you. So Ms. Robinson mentioned this. John, you've talked about being data-driven. I can't help but reiterate the importance of watching to see what happens at the middle school as a result of perhaps some more difficult behaviors not being there as much. It's really important to this community to find out that the middle school is a different place, perhaps better, because we've found a way to help some other youngsters in the ways they need to be helped. So I don't know how you can collect that data. I know that every year I used to be able to, have to document how many incidents of this kind of behavior or that kind of behavior happened. Perhaps you can do comparisons that way, whatever way. But I think the next time you're facing this board, I will not be sitting here most likely, but it would be important for the city and for these folks to be able to hear data that says, because this program is working, we are also getting this benefit at Rutland Middle School. And I would hope that would be the case.
I thank you for that, and I just want to respond to that. I think that what Jay was trying to touch upon too, and I'll reiterate it and paraphrase a little bit too, is it's kind of a big MTSSB process, and it's that whole process where I want to be careful not to identify just 10 or 7 kids have affected the entire culture of a building. They've probably lent to some negative behaviors, but it's what we all do each day. And it's what the whole community does, and it's what the whole community does when they pick up things and they want a more cleanly environment, a more involved environment. It's what every student does and every faculty to create culture. And I think this is part of it, having these alternatives for a few that may need a little more, but it's all the change of culture, I think, is what I would respond in saying that. But I think that we should continue to collect that data and do that.
And it's a very fair question that you and Sarah asked. It's hard for me because I wasn't here, so I wish I had more observations
It's
about.
way early.
Yeah.
It's way early. We'll give you the
Yeah.
pass.
Good. Other questions?
I just wanted
Go ahead.
to say thank you for being willing to look outside the typical box and providing these students with what they need. And hopefully that, and being very creative in the financing, because as we can see, it's not an inexpensive project. So, well done. Thank you.
Way to innovate, team.
Thank you.
We love it.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Superintendent, you have another
Well,
topic?
yeah, we do. We're going to talk about the process of looking at and studying our English language learning program. As you know, John has brought to you that we undertook a study to evaluate our programs and how successful are they, and gather data, and we brought someone in to help facilitate. So these three folks have been working on it with obviously with staff in the district, so I thought we'd give them a few minutes. Did I say a few minutes? Yeah, just because there's a lot on the agenda, but if you could summarize the work up to this point, because I know that you'll be back with the board.
I'm sure I will. All right, so why didn't that move, Jack? I'm just going to disconnect. I'm sorry, 1 second, I'm having a little technical difficulty, I apologize. I just got thrown off.
I've got a hammer.
I just got thrown off.
Oh no, that's an expensive computer.
It just threw me off, sorry.
That's all right. No pressure, no problem. I'm gonna refill my water while you have technical difficulty. While I trip over every damn chair in the room.
Enjoy the Zen months,
It
yeah.
did. No, not that one, but it just threw me off my present. I know.
Let's see, what stickers do you have?
It's a new bottle. My mom got me a new one for my birthday, so.
Is it a Stanley though?
Oh, no, this one, she stands by, it's an iron flask.
Still very heavy, yeah.
I don't really know much.
Stanley handles get in the way.
I do have a Ted Lasso sticker.
Oh, I love it.
Sorry, Kim, it just threw me out. I'll disconnect. Sorry about that. It just threw me out. I was right there.
Too early.
Sorry, John, your free subscription is over. You'll now.
I have to pay now, I guess. So, all right. Okay, I can. Thank you, want me to guide?
Sure.
All right. So thank you. Sorry about that. I just had a little technical difficulties. Kim, thank you for coming for the rescue. Something we embarked in a little over a year ago now. It was actually just over a little year ago. When coming to, when I started looking at things and evaluating some of our programs, you'll all remember there we go. All right. You'll all remember that we decided to, when I first started, did a big overview of our special ed programs in Concord. And it was about a 120-page document that we put together and did that pretty thoroughly, went through and design pillars of success that we have been marching through pretty well as a district and as a team. Another team that I've worked with along and partnered with Kim on this one, named Quincy, is really working with our ELL population. And currently we have 272 students who receive English language instruction each day in the district. And in doing so, and doing this, when I came here, I had a lot of conversations with the ELL team. And it's still sitting in my office this day. It was in the first month of working here. And they came in and they had a lot of goals and a lot of concerns. And we wrote those all down. And I kind of, like we all can do when we first find a problem, we stare at it. And I said, sometimes we just got to stare at this problem and not jump to conclusion. And I called some of my resources around the state at the time. I talked to the DOE, and I said, is there someone out there to come in and help me do something similar and review and look at our current programs? And I met Dana Garish, French, who works for a company called Upriver. And Dana was able to work with me and then really with our team to start looking at what is good ELL programming. I didn't have that knowledge base, so I went out and I found someone that did. And Dana is a former director herself of a large city program and understands what good instruction should be with multi-language instruction. She's a certified ELL teacher herself and ELL administrator, so she would really help us start this process. So we developed a steering committee, and that involved myself, Quincy, Kim, Fern Seiden, Katie Scarpati, Sean White, Tim Hebert, Becky Bellarone, and Dana. And we started really doing a book study looking at culture of responsible leadership. And then we started conducting some tours and interviews, and Dana and Quincy were really involved in this. And we started saying, what should our program look like and kind of where should it be? I provided you with the executive summary from the report, which again is pretty lengthy, which I will also provide by email to all of you, so you can have that tomorrow. But I wanted to introduce it first and say kind of this is where we are and kind of why we started looking at this, because there was a lot of need and we had a concern that this population maybe wasn't being served to what we should hope it should be. And the quality of our instruction in a tier 1 system and a tier 2 system probably need to be improved. And how do we get there?
So, as far as when you're looking through that document that John's going to send out, there's some terminology and some best practices just within this realm that should be considered. Some of they're all listed there, but they're in your packet too. We're going to start off with, and I believe it's actually the first bullet in the packet, speaks into moving from the term New Americans to multilingual learner. That's really just because it's a very limiting term, and it's also usually not accurate and accurately used. Moving on, multilingual learner education, that is the teaching of students who use 2 or more languages. WIDA, which is an acronym which stands for World Class Instructional Design and Assessment. WIDA itself is a consortium of states dedicated to the design and implementation of high standards and equitable education opportunities for English language learners. When it comes to WIDA, that is actually, they provide English language development frameworks for K through 12 in New Hampshire, as well as 41 other states, DC, Puerto Rico, the Northern Mariana Islands. It's very well used. These standards form the basis for access to ELL state exams, and those are basically a suite of proficiency assessments that they use. They're taken annually. There's multiple variations of the test, so it helps meet students wherever they are at, ideally. Some other terms that are in the report, sheltered instruction, which is SEI or SCI, depending on what it is. And that is a teaching style that's founded on the concept of providing meaningful instruction in content areas such as social studies, math, science, for ELLs, which is English language learners, as they work towards fluency in English. English language development, which is sometimes written as ELD, means instruction designed specifically for English language learners to develop their listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills in English. Some other terms that you will see and maybe hear would be ESOL, which is sometimes said as ESOL. That stands for English for Speakers of Other Languages. ESL, English Second Language, and then ELD, which is English Language Development. And the assessments of WIDA, just so you're aware, those are done in the domains of listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Any questions about any of that? Great, I'm going to move on to this. And this kind of touches on that first bullet of why the term multilingual learner is what we're pushing towards, and that's kind of just a standard across the state, the country, you name it. This is really speaks to what they do have instead of what they don't, which is another kind of limiting way that other terms kind of look at those types of students. So multilingual learners bring many assets to a classroom. They have the information and ideas that they have already learned, ways that they have used languages at home with their families, members, in their communities, etc. Their home and community experience that can be the focus of standards-based content area instruction, their interests and passions that they have and what they've already done to pursue them, previous successes that they have experienced and can connect with in order to build their confidence in academic settings, the amazing ways that they can navigate their various roles and identities within themselves, their homes, their communities, and then their brains that are very flexible in the fact that they are processing 2, sometimes even more than 2 languages and making connections across all those languages and cultures. In addition, it is a DOE standard, so overall it just helps us see so much more to them that we typically have historically.
Yeah. So one of the resources that Upriver has provided for us is kind of a model for what would be ideal for our multilingual learners in terms of their classroom instruction. We really are looking at best practices, which would be content, students remaining in the classroom for content instruction about 75% of the time, with the non-instructional being about 20, that would be non-academic, and getting that English language development about 7 to 8% of their day. So this is a model that we will be looking at as we go forward with any kind of proposals that come out of this study group. That's not where we are right now, and so this is a place where we would like to get to eventually down the road. So in this process, John kind of did an overview. What Dana did is she came to us and she started looking at so many different components of our programs, and basically one of them being identification. Now, the WIDA test is how you identify students. So a student might be recommended for ELL services, but they'd have to score a certain demarcation on the WIDA test. So she looked at our process for identifying students, how we place students, what kind of notifications we provided parents, especially across buildings. Are we doing it the same in every building? Are we following up with parents in the same fashion? Looking at our assessments, the disability assessments, looking at equitable services, and the biggest highlight for this was looking at instructional programming. So are students receiving the same model of instruction from one elementary school to another, or at Runlet, the high school? Is there continuity in the instructional practices? Looking at how we exit students from the program. Paperwork that might be a parent that says they want to opt out of the program. We need to keep our records clean around that and make sure that we're doing that the same at all buildings. And looking at program evaluation. So those were kind of the focus areas that she used in going through this sweep. And so part of it was that, as John mentioned, we went to every single building. We had meetings with administrators and any ELL staff. We just did a big, huge data sweep, and then as a result, you have the report that Dana did. She made the recommendations, but she also went and did listening tours, and you were with those, went to those. And she also did something else which was really interesting. She did a building sweep to look for, are different languages represented throughout the building? Are there posters that show equity? Are there welcome signs in different languages? Is it clear for a student who has very, very little English how they might get to room 504 at the high school or whatever? So I thought that was a very interesting component too, to do that kind of a building sweep of how equitable are we, and how are we helping to best serve these students.
So in observations and recommendations, hold this for a second. I provided the board on page 49 of your book through page 51. I took the larger report and I kind of just said there's a lot there, and I went through and picked and plucked for you, and just gave you a little bit of an overview of kind of some of the observations she had about how we do have certain good things in place. Like we have a good, really solid power school system that collects our data. We've begun using a program called Elevations, which helps track and look at exactly where kids are based on their WIDA scores and what their needs are, and gives instructional recommendations for teachers. We started to use those programs. We still have a lot to do. We need to have consistency amongst our buildings about how we're using that data. We're not there yet. Placement, it varies across our district. We found that when we look at placement, it's kind of like, we're doing our best to look at placement, and we're doing our best to design programs, but I can't say that we're consistent on that right now. We need to look at, should we be clustering certain groups of kids in certain areas? How are we determining schedules for our students who are at the higher levels, middle school and high school? All things we have to look at. Notifications. We have multiple notifications for multiple buildings. We need to standardize that. Elevations is a tool and a bank of recommendations that comes as part of this program that allows us to have consistent letters across the district in multiple languages. We'll be working towards doing that. I think when it comes to monitoring and exiting, we're doing a fairly good job right now. We do a nice job with our WIDA assessment. It's very organized. Jackie Delory does a great job at our elementary doing that, and I think that we are doing a nice job both in the middle and the high school also with tracking of our data, and our assessment scores are timely and they're in the system right now. We need to create more of an electronic data collection system across the district using Elevations, that we are monitoring kids, so when they go past of being identified of getting direct service, when they're monitored, how are we tracking their progress? We have to grow and continue to do that. And I think that, beyond that, I think we're inclusive, I think, in a lot of ways. I think that she saw that in all of her observations, along with Quincy, that is part of our culture, what we're doing. Things like the Night in the Park are great events. We need to run more of those. We have to have more opportunities that we have district-wide inclusive activities for our students in this population. And I think that overall, where we are is kind of this state right now. In the swarm, and those of you who've ever coached soccer, you have kind of that ball, and everyone swarms around and tries to help it. It's not the most organized fashion when you do it. But the hope and the goal is to get to more of an organized fashion as we move forward, and as we start, putting things in those organized areas and moving to a place more forward that. So what are our next steps and where we're going with this? We've met with the Administrative Council twice right now, September and November. We've gathered their feedback. We've met with the entire ELL team for almost 2.5 hours to gather their feedback on those certain areas and where we do. We will meet with the district EL team coming up very shortly, and then we met with the board today. Then we're going to establish a district-wide ELL planning team, and it's going to be with members of our ELL leadership team, members of our ELL teaching team, and we'll come together and we'll start to put together an action plan of kind of taking each one of these pillars or areas and looking at them and saying, where are we now, our current state, where do we need to improve, and how do we do that, and what timeline has to happen for this. So we're hoping to present that action plan to you in March and April with our team members. We'll probably start with the instructional committee, and then if requested, come here again. Anything else, Kim or Lindsay?
Any questions?
Any questions?
This is wonderful. Language can be such an invisible barrier on a multitude of levels, not just speaking something other than English, but even struggling with the language that you speak. When I first started teaching here, Gretchen Doucette, one person did all the schools in Concord. That's how little ELL was in 1990. So this is wonderful to see that we're not assuming things are fine because they look fine, which I think sometimes in things like just the invisible parts of the school day, testing, SATs, all the ways that language can infiltrate things we're asking our students to do, and them not necessarily knowing that they have options for support and help. This is nice to see. Thank you.
Other questions?
No. And I leave you with a quote because I think that if Dana wished she could be here, but she's actually presenting in another district tonight that I referred her to, and we had conflicting nights. But just comes a point where we need to stop just pulling people out of the river, and we need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in Desmond Tutu. So I just wanted to kind of leave with what this project is and what kind of the hope is for it, that we're getting a little ahead and a little more proactive about our approaches to things.
Great. Thank you all very
Thank
much
you.
for the hard
Thank you
work.
all.
Thank you.
I think they'll be back to give you more information. You can see this is pretty comprehensive. There's a lot in this, and they'll be back.
You'll be sending us the report?
Yeah, John,
Yeah.
you'll send that in the morning, the full report, what you have in your packet of recommendations.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
After, and I recognize we already approved the agenda, but after number 6, can we expedite public comment further up? Because I anticipate there are a lot of people who have been waiting, and I anticipate our next orders of business might take 30 to 40 minutes, and I don't want to have other folks wait. But
Are there items in those areas 7 and 8 that would require a vote?
An 8, yes.
in 8, yes.
So I would want to do 8 before public comment so that
Okay.
anyone would have the opportunity to comment on something we would vote on.
Okay.
Okay? However, we can move 7 if that would be the desire of the board.
It only takes 5.
Yeah, that won't take very long.
Okay, so am I hearing that you don't want to move 7? Now we want to keep this. Okay.
Yeah, talk fast.
All right.
Could I finish?
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
All right, just a quick update. Calendar 23-24 is in there. You've already approved it, but I just brought it back to you to show you that. And also, this is a public opportunity. We'll get a newsletter out that the January 23rd will be a professional development day. Schools will be closed in order to have New Hampshire conduct the first in the primary for the presidential primary. So the 23rd is there. The Secretary of State announced that. The March workshop will be removed. The 22nd, which was originally what we had scheduled. This is just an FYI for you, and I will post this new schedule tomorrow morning but I wanted you to see it first, and it's pretty much what we talked about. Met with a union, they're fine, so we should be fine. That's just an FYI. And then the other thing I stuck in there was just so you could see the dates for elections in the city: January 23rd, the presidential primary; September 10th, the state primary; and November 5th, the general election. Those have already been established. We received a call from the city. Just wanted you to have that, and so you know it's coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Does that conclude your report, Superintendent?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Monthly finance report. Mr. Dunn, will you be leading this, or is this going
I'll just go
to be
if
Ms.
there's any
Desmond?
questions. My report is in there,
Okay.
so if there's any questions you have, I can answer. If I can't answer, I'll get you responses. If not, I'll have Ellen turn it over, and then we can come back to my handout afterward.
Okay.
It's something you had asked at the last meeting.
All right, Ms. Desmond.
Great, thank you. I always love coming to present because usually it's good news, and tonight certainly is 2 big pieces of really good news. I know we've made these announcements as well, you're well aware, but we have received 2 pretty significant direct from the federal government funding opportunities. So I wanted to really briefly speak about them, give you a chance to do some reflection on them. The first one is through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration. That's part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And it's called we're calling our project the Concord Children's System of Care Expanded Integration Project. As you know, I can be a little bit wordy, but I'm actually going to talk about why I chose that title. You may also hear it referred to as CMHI, or the Children's Mental Health Initiative. Those are the CFDA, like what the feds call it. You may also hear it referred to as System of Care, or Children's System of Care, or simply the SAMSA grant. So here's why I chose that. It speaks directly to really our 3-pronged intentions with this grant. The first is that we're building on something that we already have in Concord. We're really fortunate that we have a pretty strong network. And the purpose of this grant is to extend that. So when we're talking about building up youth mental health supports, wraparound services, getting families engaged and involved, we're going to lean on our partners pretty extensively, and that's really the aim of this grant. So we're going to build up and strengthen the relationships that we have with partners like NAMI New Hampshire, Riverbend, Seacoast Youth Services. Private providers will certainly come into that picture as well. Other different therapeutic opportunities for students, making sure that the district can serve as a hub for some of those community services. That we don't have to, the district does not need to be a mental health provider, but we can invite those providers into our community to make access more integrated for our students. And that's really the key focus of that. So that leads me right into that integration component. It situates the district within our larger community. And a massive part of this, there's even a required role of a lead family coordinator that we're partnering with NAMI New Hampshire to hire for, is that integration with student and family voice. So that will be a major component of this. And then, of course, I love talking about sustainability. It is a project. It's time limited. We are receiving about $950,000 annually over the next 4 years. There will be a scale up of incremental match. So taking a look at where do some of these where do the funds from some of these very costly interventions, where's that going to come from? Some of that will be on our partners, right, as behavioral health providers. We'll be asking them to kind of step up. We'll provide that, fiscal support up front, but we're already having those conversations with NAMI New Hampshire and Riverbend saying, hey, if this is successful and we like this model, we're going to be asking you to really partner with us from a fiscal standpoint as well moving forward. And they obviously have access to, as 501c3s, they have access to additional funding as well. And we would be a key partner in that. I see my role, as crucial in that and helping them with their grants management as well, if it benefits us. And then we do have pretty intense external evaluation with the Behavioral Health Improvement Institute. They are out of Keene State College. They are nationally known and published, and we're very fortunate to have them. They also run the MTSSB, Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, TA Center for the state of New Hampshire. So wealth of knowledge there. Very broadly, here are the goals of the project. It's a systems grant, so we're looking at building community stakeholder capacity. That means workforce development, training, policy change. That's actually something that we will be measuring, policy and procedural change. Of course, we want to mitigate any barriers and make mental health access for our youth more accessible. So that facilitated referral process is really crucial. And then we've already heard a little bit about the MAP program tonight. Similar, whether that's the MAP program or there's, those tier 2 intervention groups, restorative practices, and fusing that within the middle school and the high school to look at what the data say about the relationship between discipline and behavior and behavioral health. Really, scrutinizing some of that and then developing those restorative practices to build a climate and culture that mitigates any, mental health concerns. And the expanded prevention opportunities, that is intentionally kind of at the bottom. This is a clinical services grant, so that we really are focusing on that tier 3, our students with the highest needs. But of course, we want to prevent students from even needing tier 3 services, so we'll also be working on tier 1 approaches as well. Any questions about that really briefly?
Anyone?
Okay. I have 115 pages of an application if anybody wants to read the full thing.
Not tonight.
This second one is Project LEAD. Again, please excuse the acronym. Sometimes it gets really late at night when I'm naming these things, but it does actually state what we're trying to do. Lead together, law enforcement and district together. This was a grant we received through the Department of Justice in their community oriented policing services office. It is $460,000 over the course of 3 years. It does require a match. So that will nicely dovetail with some of the safety upgrades that we have been talking about and planning about for years. Chiefly, it is a collaboration between CPD, the Concord Police Department, HSEM, Homeland Security, and Emergency Management readiness teams, and we'll be building up some security infrastructure. Again, things we've been talking about for a while, so we feel really fortunate that we received these monies. 2 chief goals that are bolded right in there, and then some sub-goals. Really, we want to streamline communication to make sure that there's both in terms of the prevention activities, but also in terms of emergency response as well. So we'll have more streamlined communication. We've already let all of the principals know they're very excited about upgraded radios. That will help, communication. Obviously, Terry will be instrumental in that, is kind of liaising with the Concord Police Department as well, and thinking about those systems, protocols, things like that to ensure that there's that streamlined communication. There's also some infrastructure upgrades. So that would be the Columbine locks that we wrote into the application. So upgrading to that industry standard for classroom security, as well as a blue light notification system, which I'm really excited about. I think that will help, especially our youngest students, to kind of recognize in a multi-sensory way if there's an emergency of some kind. And even since having written this grant, we've learned that there are some new technologies out there that we may be doing a scope change for something that's might be even more accessible to our students. I think that's it. These are the other things on my docket. So I'll come back at some point, hopefully with good news about some of these other things.
Thank you, Ms. Desmond. Go ahead. Question?
Just on improving the emergency response plan and the protocols, do we have the fire department at the table in
Yes.
these discussions
Yep.
as well as the police department?
Yes. Yeah, they're less of a, I think we have like streamlined communications with them in a little bit of a different way. But yes, they were actually part of the application. They also signed off on an MOU with us.
Nice. Other questions?
I just want to thank you for all the work that you do behind the scenes. to
I'm so excited
come up with
for
all this
the
money.
district.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
a big deal. You're a big deal.
Great.
And a very good investment.
Yes,
Thank
it's been
you.
a very good
Thank you.
investment.
Thank you, friend. We appreciate you.
Well, very good.
It was no investment.
So, thank you very much, Mr. Dunn. You had something to add on the end, or are you just giving us this handout?
Oh, just you had asked last month about absences. So I just put together a a simple sheet, just say FY '23, and I took the number of active days that we had and divided it into the budget and actual, and then how we would be trending this year. So Friday, December 1st, from my understanding, was the 59th day of school. So I'm gonna count the kids in the building, because that's usually when we need the subs. And that's why I show, last year we ran about $4,170 a day. Right now it's at $3,069 a day. So it's lower trending than last year, but we haven't got into the
The flu season?
Sicknesses, I don't think.
Don't jinx us, Mr. Dunn. That's a good trend that you gave us, so.
Yeah. All right, so for that,
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we move on to the instructional committee.
I want to note quickly that I'm a committee member, not just a board member on this committee. Somebody has it out for me. In terms of the
Just want you to
instructional
be
committee.
bored.
I'm either absent or not on the committee. So I was there, but I am a committee member, not just a board member. This is my 11th year on this particular committee. So,
We will make that.
I don't know who I'm giving crap to right now, but I'm giving it.
Well, I was there for most of this meeting and I'm not listed, so.
So,
Wow, all right, so I see what's going on here.
so clearly there are amendments that need to be made to the minutes, I assume. But I will, pass this on to Ms. Hastings, even though she may not want it at this point.
I'll take it. All right. We will make those changes. And the instructional committee is bringing you 2 items this evening. One is the calendar for the school year next year. It came back to the instructional committee for some cleaning up and more information. The instructional committee is recommending that we adopt calendar draft A for the 24-25 school year, which is a more traditional calendar, similar to what we've seen in the last few years. Draft B was presented more as an opportunity for us to think ahead and think towards the future about where things might be going, and it took away the February winter vacation and the April spring vacation and gave you one vacation in March, so that school would end considerably earlier in the year, late May, early June, rather than mid-June. Understanding that that's not something that we can do at this point in time because there are so many other schools depending on our calendar and families, and so it isn't going to work, but it was brought to our attention more as a thinking ahead. Put it on our radar anyway. Yeah. So the instructional committee voted 4-0 to recommend calendar A for the 24-25 year, and on the recommendation of the instructional committee, I would move that the board adopt calendar A for the 24-25 year. And I think that vote would need to come after
Yes.
public comment.
No second.
Okay. So,
I don't know if we move it yet, or do we
you
wait?
can both hold until we, afterwards, but you can each, you can move in second then.
The second item that's going to come to you tonight is a new class at Concord High School. It's a new course proposal to recommend that we add the course called Business Essentials. It's a project-based entry-level course meant to introduce 9th grade students to the business department at Concord High School. It would allow students a more streamlined path towards success in the CRTC business program if they decide to go that way, but also allows them to kind of determine whether they're interested in the business classes as they move forward or not. So this would be for 9th graders as they start to think about where they're headed in their high school careers. And this also was moved to bring to the full board as a recommended course addition, the 24-25 year.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there any current course that is similar to this, or that this would be possibly replacing, or is there just a need?
I think there was a need, Ms. Yarlett, or Assistant Superintendent Yarlett might be able to better address that, but I think it was more of a need, an option to increase the math, the business courses for younger students.
So there are other business courses offered at the high school, and this would be more of an introductory to try to get some enthusiasm around business, maybe even career or other opportunities. I'm going to turn it over to Principal.
So I do have a colleague here with me, but she's being shy. The courses proposed last year, we knew we were going to go through a transformation in the business department, taking the math requirement, or money management, meeting our fourth year math requirement. So when we took that out, business did take a hit, but we agreed that we were going to give business an opportunity to really dig into things of personal finance, the business opportunities we have here in our local community, small business, enterprise, corporate structure, etc. So what Danielle and her group have done is put together a proposal that aligns with national standards around a business essentials class to give students an opportunity to explore the different avenues of business. And it would also be like it would lead them into either taking additional courses within our business department at Concord High School, or if they wanted to dig deeper into a certain area with the CRTC and the FBLA program that they're putting together there, they could do that. So it's really to set the stage of a solid fundamental understanding of business essentials and all the different variety of offerings we may have in our community.
Quick follow-up, would we have to hire any additional staff for this?
No. So this past year, we took the math requirement out of money management in March. It was after we went through the budget process. We did take the hit, but what we did is use the additional FTE to meet the demands of math requirements that exceeded the FTEs we had. The plan is for Concord High School to bring that FTE to 1.0 back into the business department instead of the 0.4 in the math department. So we again will be back to 2.0 FTEs in the business department as we were before we removed that money management math requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Will you need to add to the math department to make up for moving it back to the business?
We would have to explore our math enrollment numbers to make that determination.
Any other questions?
It's a really cool class. It's project-based. It's just, it looks like it's really innovative ways to get kiddos excited about exploring that aspect of their education. It was a great presentation when you gave it. So yeah, highly recommended by the whole instructional committee.
Thank you.
Not just too, the larger number of kids that are going to trade schools and wanting to go into business on their own.
Yeah.
And maybe not understanding, not only do I get to weld, but I get to balance my books and market my business and all the things that go into all that side of it. So I thought of those kids right away.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
So this would be the second motion coming out of the
Instructional committee, yes.
which we will allow public comment on prior to voting on it. Is there anything else that you'd like to bring up from the instructional committee?
No, the report is in the book, and the presentations, I believe, are also in there.
Does anyone object to having these two votes as 9.5 after public comment?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm just going to write that in here. No one objects. And that brings us to item number 9, which is public comment. We have a 30-minute public comment, so can I see hands as to how many people are anticipating public comment?
Question.
Yes.
Is it public comment on the work you've done tonight, or is it on anything at all?
At this time, since the changes in the law, we have public comment on anything at all.
So this is for anything at all, right?
This is for anything at all.
Then
So can I see those hands on anything at all? So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we could stick with 5 minutes and not be too much over if people don't use their whole 5 minutes. So, good. So I will ask, as far as public comment goes, to if you would sign in, please, for us. write your name and address on the sheet so we have a record for our recording secretary. And with that, you can choose your order, whichever you'd like. Who would like to be first?
My name's already on it.
Okay, if you're already on it, we'll let her
I
go
guess I'm
first and then you,
first.
sir.
Come on, folks. Want me to pass it back to you?
Anytime. Please, thank you. Good evening, Ms. Odley.
Good evening to all of you. I will be more agreeable tonight.
Well, I will ask that you speak into the microphone, and I'll ask that, extend that to everybody. Sometimes I've heard comments coming back that it's sometimes a little hard to hear, especially when we're in this room. So if you could speak in the microphone, that'll make sure that everybody who's listening at home can hear. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Hoadley, better known by Betty. I live in Ward 2, and I have been a taxpayer in this community for 63 years. And I didn't own property at 5 years old. Okay. Tonight I'm going to give you a history lesson. I'm going to give you a break, too. I had a whole section, 2/3 of what I wanted to say tonight. But in the interest of me getting home safely and watching the Celtics, I've cut it by 2/3. You're lucky. Our country is based on representative government. 8 of you have become members of the school board by this method. You have earned the right to represent them here in this body, in this room. There is an old saying about some school boards, not you, of course. They do what they want. I'm sure you've heard that expression. And some do what they want. And guess what? They don't get reelected. Don't get that reputation. When the opinions have been offered and there are large segments of the group of the citizenry united, you need to listen to them. You don't need to be tone deaf. That's another expression you've heard. They are tone deaf. You don't want to be tone deaf. Our voting system has a 3-year, I'm going to be the historian now, just to refresh you. In one a 3-year cycle on selecting school board members. In 1 year, the method is an at-large method, and board members are voted on by all the voters in the city. In the other 2 years of the cycle, there is the ward zone voting. I do know a little bit about this, having served, like Tom, on the District Charter Commission. Zone 1, or A, is wards 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm sure you know who elected you, or I hope you do. Ward B, or 2, is 5, 6, 7. Ward C, or 3, is 8, 9, and 10. Surely you know what ward chose you and what ward is depending upon you. And now you're going to vote in just 2 more nights. I will continue on Wednesday night with my history lesson. And like the gentleman who was going to go play poker, I'm going home safely, I hope, to watch the Celtics. Thank you. Now, is that not my briefest comment yet?
It was certainly very brief. Thank you, Ms. Hoadley, and I hope the Celtics win.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Betty.
Drive carefully, please.
Next.
Good evening. My name is Brad Wolcott. I'm a resident of Ward 5. I know many of you. I grew up with your kids, ran track with U.S. coaches, neighbors. I'm here to represent my family, my sister and her young kids who live down the street from me, and my mom, who was a teacher at Concord High for over 20 years and now volunteers full-time at Broken Ground School. I'm here to advocate for rebuilding the middle school at Runlet. Having grown up in Concord, I went to Kimball, to Runlet, to Concord High School, and then left for college and service abroad. When my wife and I decided to come back to Concord, one of the driving forces in where we settled was the ability for our kids to walk or ride their bikes to school, to live in a neighborhood, and to develop those relationships and have a tight, integrated community like I had growing up. The choice that you're going to make in 2 nights could potentially reshape Concord in ways that are difficult to foresee if you choose to rebuild the middle school in a part of town that is not accessible for most of the student body. And I've seen in the paper that some of you have requested parents to come in and voice your or our feelings about the decision that you have to make. I have 2 kids, both of whom are at Krista McAuliffe. My daughter Claire is in 2nd grade, and my son James is in 5th grade, and they will undoubtedly be affected by the decision that you're going to make in 2 nights. My son walks or rides his bike to school almost every day, and as my daughter gets older, I'm sure she'll enjoy doing that as well. One of the specific things, I know that you're going to hear endless public comment about this, but having 2 kids who may be affected by the construction, I want you to know that I am not concerned about any disruption that will be caused by construction during their time at Runlet if you choose to rebuild. The decision that you're going to make is going to affect decades of students in this city, and some of those students, my children included, may have to deal with a little distraction in class so that this community moving forward can remain a tight-knit, walkable, more densely populated city rather than promoting growth, the environmental degradation of building out on the Broken Ground site, and a laundry list of other things that I know you guys have all heard. So thank you for your time, and thank you all for taking the time from your busy schedules to serve the city. I know that it comes at a toll, and it takes a lot of dedication to sit here on this board and make that and take that time, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walcott. Yes, he did. They're actually signing in ahead of time, which is awesome.
Good evening. My name is Roland Berube. I live in Ward B. Essentially, I'll just say ditto to what Brad just said. I would hope that you will vote to rebuild at Runlet on South Street, because basically the infrastructure is already there, and by infrastructure I'm talking about the sidewalks on the streets, the wider streets. We don't have to worry about too much of an impact on traffic in the neighborhood as opposed to the other location. I also wanted to, I meant to preface my comments by saying thank you for accepting public comment, as well as for all the work that you had done in coming up with the 2 sites. And based on all that work and the 2 sites that are presented, I do think that the South Street one is definitely the one that you should be voting for. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Rochelle Eaton. I live in Ward 4, and my son, John Henry, is a 2nd grader at Krista McAuliffe School. And I just wanted to add my voice in favor of rebuilding the middle school at Runlet. We have lived in Concord for 4 years and are under contract to buy a house, so we're hoping to live here many, many more years. We moved from the town called Ackworth. It's in a very rural part of the state, and a big part of what we loved moving to Concord was exactly the walkable nature of the neighborhood, and that's why we chose where we're renting and where we are planning to live. But my supporting of the Runlet site is not just for my own self-interest and my son being able to ride his bike to school, but also for the things that many people have stated about the environmental impact and the impact on the community. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Good luck
That's
on your
really
closing.
exciting.
The knees. Hopefully they'll, another decade, they'll have grease fittings where we can squirt WD-40 in there.
Little late for me, but okay.
All right, so quickly, my name is Ron Rayner, Ward 5, moved here with my family in late '88, been here ever since. Kids went to existing Runlet and Concord High. Background-wise, I'm a retired civil environmental engineer, really in wastewater, more industrial wastewater geared, hazardous waste site cleanups. To prepare my comments for tonight, I reviewed I did spend a good amount of time on the last board meeting on YouTube and picked up quite a bit in terms of where the board was going with directions. And I've also reviewed the cost table. Printed that out. I had to throw the hammer at the printer a few times, but I finally got something to work. And so I want to focus on 3 points. So I'm going to give you a little more meat and potatoes. Hopefully you can think about it over the next 2 days. Infrastructure needs. It's been touched on. Yes, sidewalks, true, no doubt, but water and sewer. The city has estimated that there's a pump station within the vicinity that needs to be upgraded. I believe that's under preliminary design with the city. They do have an estimate for it, but God only knows if that estimate is a better estimate than what they've done for the clubhouse at Beaver Meadow. They call that a placeholder. I don't know if the sewer pump station's a placeholder, but point is, it's an estimate. School board, which has taken a common approach, has said we'll participate in a percentage. The percentage is an estimate. So my point is, we have an estimate of an estimate, and it gives a lot of potential for an upside for that to be boosted up. That impacts the costs, could be considerable at broken ground. It would make them higher. Second, roads. You've heard all about it, about traffic. I have personal friends who live right near the corner of Portsmouth Street and South Curtisville Road. They're not happy with what goes on there now at select times of the day. My daughter works at DMV and can verify that, yes, at times when she takes a shortcut, it's horrendous. So think about this. The construction time at broken ground anyway is about 1.5 years, maybe pushing 2. Yes, there will be noise. Yes, there will be some distraction. It's going to be at either site, though. So it's almost apples to apples. You're going to have it at either site. I predict that you're going to have construction vehicles 5 days a week at a min, 10 hours a day. At least now, there's not traffic 10 hours a day. It's in the morning, late afternoon. That 1.5 to maybe 20, 22 months, you're going to have it 10 hours of the day. And I predict that neighbors at that point will be just a tad upset with the traffic. And then if school does commence at broken ground, if it's built there and it commences, it's going to get worse. And I predict that it's likely that over time there's the potential for a lawsuit by the citizens in that area to widen the roads. The city will need an easement to widen the roads. And how congenial do you think those residents, who most, in large part, don't want it there in the first place, of course will give you an easement? No, it's not going to happen. Third, athletic fields. Yes, there will be some disruption, but Runlet is much closer to Memorial Field. It's easier. Students don't have to be bused as they would from broken ground. And as I've mentioned, I was at the public hearing at on September 26th at Broken Ground and mentioned that please look at Russell Martin Park. It is in very close proximity to Runlet now. It's just down Ironworks Road. The school district the city acquired that park through the school district. So certainly that's the history of it. This is all described, map 29, Concord Trail System.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. There are 5 minutes.
I'm sorry, just you have to bear with me. I waited 2 hours. I've got one last key point.
Make it quick, sir.
So Russell Martin Park needs to be considered. Last point, and most critical of all, is the actual estimated cost for demolition of the existing Runlet School. Yes, it will need to come down if the city retains ownership. But I maintain that cost, and I compliment several of the school board members because it was raised and touched on in the public hearing, that there was some back and forth. I maintain that estimate, whatever it is, it's about $4.5 million, should be removed. It should be removed, period. Why? Because the city will ultimately, the school district will retain ownership of Runlet and that site. So ultimately, the cost for that will be borne by the city, by us taxpayers. So what difference does it make if it's done within this 3-year time frame, or a 6, or a 9, or a 12? I understand the reason you all asked for a premium short-term, but that's a very short-term, narrow focus.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner.
Long-term, you need to look at
Thank you, Mr. Rayner.
the city and the school district will pick up that estimate.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner.
It needs to be removed. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Do we have another person who would like to speak? Please. Thank you.
You should have had this hearing earlier, 2-3 months ago as well.
We
This is a big
we did actually multiple hearings, sir. As a matter of fact, I believe you spoke at that.
I did. I mentioned that.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for sticking around and listening to all of us talk. We've been here a few times before. I didn't know if I'd have the opportunity to be here, so I believe I emailed the members of the board my testimony earlier tonight, but I have been able to be here, and I'm going to try to talk fast. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old at home. Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Ian McGregor. I've been a resident of Concord for roughly 10 years. I live in Ward 7. And I'm a practicing engineer with 2 young kids. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old at home, and one of the values I'm trying to instill in them is to respect their things. But children being humans, they still make mistakes occasionally. Something breaks, gets stained or dirty. My wife and I don't run out and buy better, shinier, more expensive toys or clothes to replace the ones that have been damaged. We work with our kids to fix what has been broken, to wash what has been stained, and to find what has been lost. And if the situation arises, we replace what needs to be replaced. If you're still thinking I'm talking about toys and clothes, I'm not. A past topic of this meeting has been the desire to fix the existing Runlet Middle School. The school board, the staff, the subcontractors, everybody has done a fantastic job of stating how important it is that the only viable option right now is to buy a new middle school. But when you buy a school, you're not just buying the building, you're also buying the sewer pipes, water pipes, gas lines, electrical services, roads, sidewalks, as well as all of the traffic and congestion, as many other things as well. So if the new middle school is placed at the Runlet site, we would have the opportunity to fix and improve the infrastructure that we already own and connect it to the new building that we're buying. If the school is placed at the Broken Ground site, we would be buying new water pipes, new sewer pipes, new gas lines, electrical services, roads, sidewalks, parking lots, while leaving the infrastructure that we own abandoned in place at the Runlet site. to determine what to do with it at a later date. I've left some important infrastructure implements off of that, one being the booster pump needed to increase the water pressure in surrounding neighborhoods. The city has known that this is an issue and would have implemented it beforehand, but hasn't had the funds. This includes the sanitary sewer lift station, which, if anyone isn't aware, it's a pump to move raw sewage from your house on the east end of Concord to the sewer plant on the south end. Again, that's an issue that the city is currently working on and would have been implemented earlier if they had the funds available. The narrow streets and congestion in the Broken Ground and Middlebrook area are a known problem to the city, and if the funding was available, the city would have taken care of that earlier as well. This is not even including the potential of a new traffic light being installed on East Side Drive. The funds needed to construct all of these new infrastructure improvements would be borne by the citizens who are also paying for the new cost of the school. And there are only two ways to raise the money needed to pay for this new infrastructure cost as well as the school. You can either increase taxes on the people that live here or increase the tax base. The Concord Monitor recently reported that there are over 3,000 new housing units that are either in construction or in the permitting process right now. If and when those units are completed, that would be a huge increase to the tax base of our city. It may not lower anyone's taxes, but it would definitely slow the rise of the tax increases that we've all been experiencing. And it would allow the city to construct some of these infrastructure projects that it's been delaying. If the school is built on the broken ground site, the district may be forcing the hand of the city to make these upgrades to critical pieces of infrastructure without providing the additional tax revenue to pay for the construction, operation, and maintenance. If the school is built at the Wonolancet site, the school would be able to reuse the existing infrastructure and allow the private development to come into the city to provide the tax base necessary for the city to improve the water and sewer systems while covering the cost of operation and maintenance without significantly having to increase our taxes. Let's respect the things we own, reuse the infrastructure that we have instead of buying new things. Let's keep Concord affordable to custodians and bus drivers that want to live here, and let's keep our taxes in check. I vote that we rebuild at Wonolancet. That's what I have to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Next person.
He got 13 minutes last meeting.
Hi, I am Stacy Brown, and I'm here not representing City Council. I just want to make that clear. But I want to tell you about some of the things that I have been doing as a City Councilor because I'm on multiple committees. I'm on the Transportation Policy Advisory Committee, I'm on Community Development, Energy and the Environment, Conservation. So I look at a lot of the big pictures, and I was concerned when I was here on the 27th looking at some of the things that Ron had discussed, the cost analysis. I looked through the 2024 budget, and we do have that pump, the sewer pump, or pump replacement. It's 26 million. So if the school board is going to pay 10%, it's not 100,000. So I know that on lines notes 3 and 4, they say final agreement of proposal to the city is still needed. So I'm concerned that that number is so significantly low. And line 3, water capacity at Profile Avenue, it talks about a booster pump station being installed. That's nowhere in our budget. That's nowhere listed in the city budget as happening. So I'm concerned that that is something that is required. It's not factored into your premium that you're looking at. So, you know, and I know that there are committees and there are opportunities for the school board and the city council to communicate. There is, and I just realized this because we have to choose our committees in January. There is a joint city council school board committee, and I'm actually going to request to be on it because I think it's exciting and wonderful, and I see that the last meeting scheduled was June 24th, 2022. And I wish that we had had more of those meetings so we could talk about this. Because I really, as part of energy and environment and transportation policy, I really want to see our kids do more biking and walking. The South Street is part of the North-South Bike Master Plan. And what's really exciting is the 3,016 units that are being developed, all but only 5 of them are within 1.5 miles of the broken ground site, and those are 5 townhomes. The majority are in the south end, and they're up towards Pennacook. And that's something that after the November 27th meeting, I went to Matt Walsh, and I mapped out with him where these sites are going to be, where these units are going to be. And they are not near the broken ground site, which means that everyone, and we don't know if these units are all going to be developed, but that means that everyone is going to be driving to broken ground. And I really want to, and not all the units being developed are going to be for families. Some are for transitional homeless and some are for elderly. But we really want to invest in the infrastructure of our city. When I was campaigning, I was telling everyone, we need to update our master plan. Our master plan was last updated in 2008. And I want to prioritize ending homelessness, sustainability, and equity. The master plan that's quoted, that's mentioned here, is the 2010 master plan, which was written in 1993. So, I really feel like we need to work together to focus on the needs of our community. We can move forward sustainably, looking at infrastructure, but I do not want to be forced. We're going to be paying $1 million, $1,090,000 to build 1 mile of sidewalk, and that's cheap. That's 40% cheaper because we're also doing the roads. And the city has created a spreadsheet of the roads that need to be updated. So we're looking at, okay, which roads need to be updated desperately, and the sidewalks that correspond with that. So I really want to have those conversations with this board so that we are working with families, so people who may not have a vehicle. I understand driving to a school. I grew up in Mason, New Hampshire, which has no sidewalks, no streetlights. I was on a bus for, it felt like 40 minutes. And there was nothing, the school was out in the woods. It was Messinic Regional at that time. So I understand what it's like to be bussed out and how miserable that can be. And I want kids to be able to bike, and I want to be able to have that infrastructure. Loudon Road is considered a death, the funnel of death is what our former city engineer described it. I would love to have the money so that we can improve that, so people can bike down Loudon Road. They can access the Mayor-MacIver Greenway Trail. So those are some things that I wanted you to think about and I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Stace.
Hi, my name is Daniel Keller. I'm a resident of Ward 10. I've lived in the city since 2006. I'm going to bring up just one point, but 2 things I love about this city is our green space and our school district. I've raised 3 stepdaughters through the school. They're both thriving in college now, and I also have a son who's a 2nd grader at Millbrook. He's a walker. We live very close to the school. We love that he can walk to school. He cannot walk safely on East Side Drive, but we do walk through our street, down our street through the woods, and we drive him in on bad weather days. We do not feel that walking in East Concord off East Side Drive for a 2nd grader or anybody in elementary school is safe, and I do not think your plan for walkers, additional walkers to middle school is a safe plan either. I am speaking in favor of rebuilding at Runlet. I think if you vote and choose to build that school on the east side of Concord, you're doing a disservice to the taxpayers, and you're being irresponsible. I think you'll be destroying some of the green space in our city. And I just think it's overall a very irresponsible decision. I hope you'll rebuild it around that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Are we pretty close to our 30 minutes? Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone who has made public comment this evening. We very much appreciate your input. And with that, I will close the public comment session. Move on to, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
There's just a couple of things that were brought up that I just wanted to address. Martin Field, we have looked into Martin Field. Martin Field is booked and used. We have talked to the city about that. So just because it's come up a couple of times, I just wanted to say that it has been looked at. In addition, yes, the housing units, we have been looking at. We had a whole presentation on the housing units. Actually, the majority of the housing units are going to be in the Merrimack Valley School District and not the Concord School District, but we will continue to look at that as well.
Tax money. Yeah. It's city tax dollars, not district tax.
No, but no, I just,
So,
in terms of.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to the vote on our instructional committee recommendations? All right, so the first one was a
Calendar.
recommendation for the calendar. The motion was made by Ms. Hastings and seconded by Mr. Weinberg. Is there any further discussion?
Right here.
Go ahead, Mr. Croto.
I may have missed something, but the calendar on that we talked about for the polling locations that our superintendent indicated she had talked with the CEA and others about is not the same calendar as on page 72 from the instructional committee.
Different years.
Okay, because they're different years. I mean, and that would make exactly good sense. And thanks for your time.
All good, all good.
Thank you very much, Mr. Croto.
I didn't think you'd want to hear
I
that.
will add to the discussion as well
So-
that a representative from the teachers union was available to say, yes, the teachers do approve of this calendar.
Good.
So we don't have to be concerned about that for this.
Any other discussion with regards to the calendar? Not that this discussion wasn't entertaining and exciting.
My pleasure, anytime.
Extra eyes are always awesome.
That helps.
Thank you, but I'd rather talk about it and make those observations here rather than have to come back on it. So I appreciate your comments, Mr. Croto and Ms. Robinson. With that, and not seeing any other comments, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. The second motion was not yet made, so I don't believe. So is there a second motion with regards to the course?
Yes, I move that the full board adopt, the instructional committee moves that the full board adopts the proposed Business Essentials course at Concord High School for the 24-25 academic school year.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Ms. Hastings and seconded by Ms. Robinson. Is there any further discussion on that? Go ahead, Van. Thank you.
I heard that you said it was only going to be offered to ninth graders.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
So if it's like for like a prerequisite, like kind of to like CRTC business, which is mostly targeted to 11th and 12th graders, why would we not be offering that to 10th graders as well?
That is an outstanding question. Is there someone here who can answer that? Principal?
It says in the presentation, yeah.
Yeah.
So part of it is because we're grandfathering the 11th and 12th graders in. For the most part, they have some idea of their pathway that they would like to go on. And if they have an opportunity to go in CRTC or take some of our advanced business classes, we don't want to put up a barrier. But again, we would consider if a student made a strong case as a junior or senior to take a course such as this, we would consider it, without a doubt.
But as a sophomore, they can take this course?
Yes.
now?
Yes, it's for
Yes,
ninth and 10th.
ninth
Okay,
and
so-
10th grade can take the course.
All right.
Higher would be by
Special.
Yeah,
It's a special.
considerations, yeah,
Maybe
but
cookies or treats.
but we really looked at it as a grandfather type thing. We didn't want to prohibit them if they've already had an avenue that they were pursuing to put a barrier in there, one more hoop to jump it through their junior or senior year.
Thank you, Principal. Thank you, Van, for an excellent question. And is everybody clear? Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
But Van, it sounds like there's appetite for older students to take a course of this.
I'm not sure. I wouldn't be interested.
I actually had a couple parents talk to me about it, and they were just like, but my kid's going to be a junior next year. And I said, well, as their parent, I'm pretty sure that you can recommend or suggest anything, and we can always work with it from there.
Okay.
So there might be, we don't know.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any further discussion? The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes. We'll move on to personnel. Ms. Guerin, I think you'll be
evening.
taking this one.
I am, sorry.
No worries.
I bring your attention to page 101. There is a nomination for an occupational therapist. I'm going to apologize in advance and bring to your attention there is some inaccurate information on the document presented. We are handing out a revised version.
Okay, thank you.
Her certification is a speech language specialist, and she does not have speech language experience. So we're just taking that off the document, and I apologize for that. So other than that, it is a one-year only position as a 60% to fill the need for the casework right now.
Thank you for that information.
I was like, wait.
Does someone care to make a motion?
I'll move Sarah Hartman for a 60% occupational therapist position at Hamlet Middle School.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Higgins. Any further discussion?
She's wonderful.
Any further discussion after that? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The recommendation passes. Thank you.
And on page 102, you will see that we have a winter coach nomination for unified basketball coach.
Awesome.
So I'll make a motion to approve your coach nomination.
And I'll second it.
Okay, the motion was made by Mr. Weinberg and seconded by Ms. Robinson. Is there any discussion?
She's also awesome.
Okay, any further discussion?
Where is spelt wrong. That doesn't
I personally will not hold that against her. So with that, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The recommendation passes. We wish her luck. Next, anything else? One more, right?
I do not have anything else.
We do not have anything else? Okay, excellent. Moving on to item 11, communication and policy. Mr. Cotton, would you like to lead this discussion?
Sure. If you'll look at page 104 and 105, page 104 is the existing policy, page 105 is the proposed policy for field trips. Basically, the big thing there is at the beginning of the school year, we're going to send out a list of proposed field trips and get the parents to sign off on those. The other thing is we did discuss various excursions that kids tend to take, walking over from Krista McAuliffe to White's Park, or the high school to White's Park, or whatever it may be. Those two will need parent approval, but probably only one time up front. The parents can then opt out. This is a first reading for that policy. I don't know whether we need to.
Does anyone have any questions with regards? Go ahead, Mr. Weinberg.
What was the rationale between removing the board will annually consider funding district field trips?
I think it's a process that doesn't happen, is
Yeah,
what,
no.
so.
Is it a process that we'd want to consider?
Well, I think we could do that in the budget
Okay.
if we chose to.
Okay.
That's where you'd put it.
Yeah, right.
It's sort of redundant.
Okay. Any other
I
questions?
think there is some field trip funding in the budget, limited.
There usually is.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's first reading. If you have any, as you read through it, if you have comments or recommendations, please direct them to Mr. Cott as chair of that committee, or bring them with you on the second reading.
Page 106, 107, also a first reading. This really just is to incorporate some required changes from federal code, et cetera. Non-educational questionnaire surveys and research kind of gives you an outline of what kind of surveys can be conducted and the parents' rights to opt out of those kind of questionnaires, if you will. Happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions with regards to policy 592?
Looks good.
Okay. Thank
all we
you,
have.
Mr. Cotton. You have nothing else?
No.
All right, then we'll move on to item 12, subcommittees, sustainability subcommittee.
No updates
Okay.
from the same class.
Okay. Equity advisory, we have taken this long enough that Quincy is no longer here.
Yeah, we just have a
Go
meeting
ahead.
coming up January 16th, 3 to 5 at Runlet, our next equity meeting, so we'll have an update for you.
All right. Anyone have any questions? All right, moving on to other business, the enrollment report.
I think you can see on page 108, the numbers are pretty steady, a little bit of fluctuation, but nothing alarming. Class sizes all fall within your class size guidelines. I don't see anything that was alarming in the report. I think you can still see that we continue to see a little bit of an uptick at preschool, which is where we've seen the greatest growth, which obviously will affect us in kindergarten next year.
Proposed calendars and meetings, unless someone has a question with regards to the enrollment.
So if you look at your December calendar, you're already tomorrow night. Just a quick reminder, school funding presentation at the Red River Theater. Attorney Tobin was here to discuss it. If you're interested, it's at 6 p.m.
The popcorn is on me for anyone in this room
I'll
who
be
wants
there.
to attend.
Can't wait.
I happen to work there, so
Oh,
I
good.
have a connection.
Okay.
If anybody
I'll
wants.
remember that. That'll be
She
my
was giving
dinner.
out champagne last Friday.
That
night.
is
That seems
true.
like it was a better deal.
That'd be a better deal.
I missed that one.
We'll see.
And of course, we know that on Wednesday night you have at Krista McAuliffe, just to remind, Krista McAuliffe Auditorium at Concord High School, the special board meeting at 6 p.m. and we'll be all set up for you. The following week, on the 11th, we're going to move the instructional committee from the 11th into the January meeting, so. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to put you as absent. We'll move it to the January meeting. So just next Monday night, it will be just an executive committee. And on the 13th, you will be taking some time to gather at the Culinary Arts area at the high school, have some dinner, and to recognize some wonderful folks.
If you haven't RSVP'd, it's a very
Yes, would you please let us know?
elegant invitation.
I have a question.
6 o'clock.
Is
Yes.
this something we go to solo? Do we, okay,
Yes,
cool.
we go there
Okay.
solo.
All right.
It's just
I have
us.
no idea.
No, it's your first.
Good question. Good
That'll
question.
go. Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you can come with me.
All right.
I was gonna say,
Careful.
we go solo and we chat with each other.
I love it. That's great. I just wanted.
I just want to remind you that we do not undertake any business at that time. Okay?
Right.
Right.
That sounds good.
No
All right.
business.
No,
No
this
business.
is
a-
And the
Just
students will be there,
You
the
don't wanna
students
do
will
any
serve you. It's really learning about their program and what they do, and meet the chef. And again, have social conversation as a team. So. On the 18th, and that week, the week of the 18th, the Communication and Policy Committee and City and Community,
Relations.
yeah, City and Community Relations, that will be your last meeting.
Don't cry.
Well, I'm just sad.
You won't cry.
In January, your board meeting is on the 2nd. That's a reorganization meeting, so keep that in mind. that, that's, your new members will be seated, and they'll be working with Bridget upstairs to get all that paperwork done and fingerprints and all the other good things that they have to do that week. The following week, capital facilities and negotiations. As you know, we're negotiating with CEOPA, so we hope by then we'll have an agreement, Mr. Dunn, right?
Yeah, we got 2 more after that.
Okay, yeah, that's true, but at least that one.
Can't wait.
We'll be celebrating Martin Luther King on the 15th day, and then finance on the 17th, executive committee on the 22nd with instructional committee that night, policy on the 24th. I've scheduled a board retreat. You do a board retreat every year. We spend time together on a Saturday morning from 8 to 2, and I'll work with an agenda with executive committee and put that together. And then finally, the last meeting of the month on the 29th would be city and community relations. And we will have setting up a legislative breakfast again like we've done, and maybe a date for when we can do the city council meeting. We have done that in the past.
Okay.
And that is it.
The one last thing I'll say is this is the last meeting of the 2023 school board. I would very much like to thank those members that are not going to be returning. Mr. Weinberg, Mr. Croto, we very much appreciate your service. And I would also like to say that it's been my honor to be the president of this board. This is the last meeting where I am the president. We'll be electing, officers in January, and I just want to let everyone know that it's been my honor. This has been an outstanding and hardworking board, and I wish our exiting members well in their future endeavors. So. Thank you. So, I'm off. Cutting you off, Jim, because we have a 9 o'clock thing that they're doing. So we do have other business in non-public. So at this point, I will make a motion to go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A:3, Section 2A, and the other ones as well? D and
Okay.
All the sections
K.
are colons.
All the K.
Okay, so.
Does the kitchen count as non-public, or do I have to go to the car?
You gotta go to the car. Sorry. I'm sorry, it's a non-public meeting.
So may I please
Was-
have the keys to
Apologize, Representative.
I'll second the motion.
Does anyone know if Mr. Inman was attempting to speak at the second public comment? Or?
I have
I don't know.
no idea.
I don't know.
We used up our time in the first public comment. Typically, the second public comment is only if we didn't use the full 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would apologize, and I'm sure someone would have made a motion to. Yeah, see, tell him if he can come back in, we would certainly hear, or at
You
least
can pin,
I would move to hear.
Beth, Beth, right, you can right here. Oh, either way, yeah.
How many times has she been in this building?
Not enough.
No comments, no comments. All right. The motion has been made and seconded. This is a roll call vote. Please, Ms. Hastings.
It's a roll call vote?
Yeah, to go into non-public
Okay,
session.
thank you. Mr. Richards?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Okay.
Mr. Weinberg?
Yes.
Mr. Cotton?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson? Ms. Meeker?
Yep.
Mr. Croto?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
Okay, we're in non-public. Superintendent?
Do Van and Sophia get to stay here?
Not really. They need to leave. Goodbye.